Well, this week we're under doctor's orders as we dissect a medley of maladies. Joining me in the waiting room with the 1984 edition of The People's Friend, we have Dr. No Lucy Porter. Dr. Strangelove Matt Lucas. Dr. Zhivago Ross Noble. Dr. Snuggles Alan Davies. So, buzzers please, nurse. Lucy goes. For the ignorant nonsenses amongst you, that was Dr. Zhivago's theme. Matt goes. For those under 80, that was Dr. Finley's casebook. For Ross Noble, he goes... No, I don't know what that was. And Alan goes...
Oh, doctor, I'm in trouble.
Very gracious me.
Oh, more of that.
Yeah, goodness gracious me.
Okay,
There you are. So, come in, lie down, pop your feet in the stirrups, and let's see what the trouble is. What did Typhoid Mary die of?
Oh, don't start.
Yes, Ross.
Was it lack of circulation to her toe?
Yes, a possibility.
Is it typhoid?
Her name, as the label around that toe said, was Mary Mallon, and she was known as Typhoid Mary. What did she die of? It wasn't typhoid.
Why am I interrupting you? I don't even know.
That's TY.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with her.
Would-
Boredom. She'd
Car
had a
crash.
boredom
That's
from
what I was gonna say.
waiting to get typhoid and never getting it.
She had typhoid.
But she
didn't
never
suffer
had
from typhoid.
symptoms.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy Porter.
You're welcome,
Didn't have
Stephen
the
Fry.
symptoms. As Typhoid Mary, round about the turn of the century, was a cook in New York, an Irish immigrant.
As the name would suggest.
Yeah.
Welsh.
And she had typhoid, but no symptoms. She wasn't ill. She was immune to it, to all intents and purposes, but she was able to give it to others. And she did. 30, 40, 50 people, possibly.
Must be freezing in that ward with all that snow.
Imagine all the other...
It's taken his mind off the fact he's been attacked by an octopus.
Presumably
Something with trailing legs.
they're all lying there going, sorry, what did you say your name was? What, Mary? Glad to be sharing a ward with you.
Well, the sad thing is that she was not a nice person by any way of looking
All
at it.
right, Stephen, she's dead. Come on.
The thing is, she worked in households as a cook, and people would die of typhoid in the household where she cooked, and she would mysteriously leave and take up a job in another one. So she knew that she was a carrier.
Oh, she was a carrier.
Because she was put into quarantine, and then she could go free as long as she never worked in service again, didn't cook. Within weeks, she got another job as a cook, and she tried to hide from the authorities, and so she ended up the last 2 decades of her life in quarantine, and she died of pneumonia, in fact.
How did she pass it on? Saliva,
Oh,
fluids,
because she was...
body fluids.
Yeah, she had typhoid.
She went...
Yeah. Exactly, coughed, anything like that.
Didn't have to wee
So
in the
her name
soup.
has become synonymous. Now, what's the most deadly thing you can find in a doctor's waiting room? And you can look at that
Oh,
picture.
copy of the Daily Telegraph.
I'm guessing, looking at that example, is it the tiny baby bear which is crawled out from inside that plant there?
Oh, is it going to be that lethal water carrier thing in the corner?
Hang on, right next to a lamp, water, next to electricity. Health and safety nightmare.
These people are seconds from death. Wow.
You've got a fire engine there, you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. That's true. On an electrical fire? Are you mad? Come on.
Does she take the pen and stab everyone in the waiting room? That's
That would be dangerous.
another...
Actually, Ross got it straight away.
Shut your face.
It's the bear.
I knew it was the bear.
Yeah.
Aha, the
Why is it the
murderer
bear?
is in this very room.
You can't trust bears. Bears are shifty.
Can I say that isn't actually a bear?
Looks like a bear.
Well.
If it were a bear, it would be far and away the most dangerous thing in the room.
I say to you, prove it.
It's a soft, cuddly toy.
Covered in germs. It's a carrier of diseases.
Yes.
It's Bear Mary.
It bears bear. you're right.
Typhoid
Typhoid
bear.
Berry, yeah.
Typhoid bearer. Did you
Because a
actually
bear-
did that? Typhoid bearer. Hey?
Because a bear can't...
A bear can't shit in the wood. A bear can't be cut.
I don't know if I can really say this, but it sounds odd, but a bear can't be wiped down.
You've tried.
I mean, it can obviously be
You've
wiped
wiped
down.
a lot of bears down. Come on, Steve.
The doll, of
You can
course.
chuck it in the machine, can't you? Your teddy bear?
I do.
Yeah.
I
You can do what?
Chuck
Chuck
them
it
in the machine.
You
on a hot
can,
wash
you
on a
can.
boil. There is something very eerie when you put kids' toys in the machine and wash them, and then you just see their little faces pressed.
Oh.
Against the glass.
And the
You can say to the
children
kids,
sit-
"You next." Yeah.
Children
Now
sit
we
there
know-
watching them going round and round.
Now we know why it's called Winnie the Pooh.
Hey, you're right.
His real name is Winnie the Filthy Shit.
13.5% of hard toys in GPs' waiting rooms.
Don't Google that, whatever you do. Don't Google hard toys.
No.
Don't Google wiping down bears.
We've basically it's a nightmare.
Certainly not Winnie the Filthy Shit. I mean, she's a lovely girl, but she should never start that website.
It's not what you're eating, anyway.
A shocking 90% of soft toys had serious, moderate to heavy bacterial contamination. That's what I want to leave you with. Magazines. Why do you think that the magazines in doctors' waiting rooms are so dull, so uninteresting?
Because people steal the good ones, presumably.
Is the right answer. Very good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the only one, then. That is good. I would never buy Now or Chat, but if it's there...
Yeah. Nobody steals New Statesman or The Economist.
Well, you might be able to... Where do we stand, then, on the gentleman's literature in the booths at a place of fluid deposit?
Sperm banks.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Are they taken away?
What I'm saying is that, you know, when they provide the... where does that stand in the, you know... Like, on the filth scale, what are we... Because I've only done that once, and there wasn't literature. Strictly speaking, it wasn't a sperm bank, but... Hang on, no. It was a regular...
Sperm Building Society.
It was a...
It was a regular
It was a... No,
What? You went to the doctors for a wank?
Yes. No. What happened was, I used to live right out in the bush, right out in the countryside, right, miles away, right.
Yeah.
And I needed to do the.
Were you on a register?
I am now, but no, but we live too far away. By the time you've done the deposit in the beaker,
Your sperm have died.
Exactly. By the time you drove in.
yes,
So my
yes.
wife just said, hey, why don't we just go to the regular doctors and then you nip into the... And then have... And the only thing that was in there was, you know, on the ladies' sanitary bag, they have a picture of a woman in Victorian costume. There's very few things that I'm happy to admit in public, but I can't look at Mary Poppins in the same way now. I fully to the... With
You didn't do it in the bag.
So what I'm saying is...
Yes.
What I'm saying is, when a gentleman goes to a sperm bank and they provide you with...
No gentleman goes to a sperm bank, sir.
provide you with a copy of Smash Hits, the One Direction special.
Yes.
Or whatever.
I believe that's why. I believe that's why Harry Styles' hair goes like that.
Something about Harry. So, there we are. The most dangerous thing in a waiting room is a cuddly toy. Which bits of your bodies could you do without? I'm going to give you an example of a human body, so that you can possibly... that's for you two.
Kidney, you can
this
lose
is
a
for you
kidney.
two. This
can't
is...
you?
That is one of the most macabre bobbleheads I've ever seen.
Good afternoon.
Should we take out the bits we think?
Yeah, take out
the bits
a bit
you
that
think
you
you
think
can-
we
okay,
can
I've
do
got
without. You're taking out the entire intestines. There goes the liver.
Oh.
There goes one lung and another.
I don't know what that is, but it's coming.
Oh, you got that right. That's
died.
one dead
He's died.
human. Are you offering me a lung, half a brain? No?
No, I was just trying to make a pork pie.
Yeah.
Fine.
There it is.
What have you got there? A kidney.
Kidney. That's what I was looking for.
It's not good surgical practice to get rid of everything else between you and the kidney.
Couldn't get to the kidney.
Well,
now I can't get it back together again.
I'm going to
Nurse!
say... I'm going to say, if you're a man, you don't... Do you need a nipple?
it's a very good question. Why men have nipples?
Well, because they look hot when they're pierced, but apart from that, I don't know why else you would need one.
Well, the fact is that there are lots of bits you can do without. Tonsils, obviously, you knew that.
Appendix, you have those
Appendix,
out.
you knew that. What else have you come across? You've given me a kidney, which is good.
I can't get it back
Gallbladder, you
together
could give me.
again
Sinuses,
Head.
Sinuses?
yeah.
You don't need a
Appendix.
face.
Testes. I mean, obviously we like having testes, if you remember. You
Mine hasn't
won't
got any
die
testes,
if
so-
they're taken away. Uterus?
Uterus, ovaries,
You
all
can
that.
lose that,
shebang.
yeah.
Basically, all
ovaries.
you need is a neck.
Yeah. Half your brain can go. In fact, there's an operation, a hemispherectomy.
Well, you've done very well with that.
Thanks, yeah.
If you remove...
Oh, hang on. Hair. What about hair?
Yes. What do you reckon, Matt?
Well, I don't know why you're asking me.
What happens if I were to remove 4/5 of your liver?
Yeah.
It would grow back.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the thing about livers. They do, they regenerate. You get that back.
Teeth,
Bladders
obviously.
can also be regrown, amazingly. The bones in your leg, the fibula and tibula, the fibula isn't load-bearing, so you could lose that and you'd still be able to walk.
Really? I'll have that out. I'm going to do it.
Can you name one of the most famous people on Earth who has gone without a lung since he was a teenager? He, so I said it's a he.
Justin Bieber.
Possibly more famous than Justin
Barack
Bieber.
Obama. No, I can't. No.
Hang on a minute, more famous than Justin Bieber. Harry Styles.
Argentinian.
Well, I don't know foreign people. What's all this about?
There's only one truly famous
Well, I don't know
Argentinian.
him. I don't know. I told you, I
Pele?
don't watch that show.
Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona's the only one I know.
No, the Pope.
Oh, yes. He is quite
Pope
famous.
Francis. There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's only got
he's
the one
gone
lung.
happily without a lung for a long time.
So what happened when they were picking him and all that smoke's coming out the top of the... Oh, I bet he was wheezing up that day, wasn't he? Hey, in the pub! You go, oh, my pulse! Oh, my lungs... Oh, my one lung's playing up, mate.
Was he born with one lung, or did he have it?
No, as a
he lost
teenager, he
it?
had one removed. So, good. Can you pop your bodies away? Did I just say that?
Yes.
Put your bodies away.
We just reacted as if that was
That's your
normal.
kidney. OK. Who might be having sex on your face right now?
Kim and Kanye.
In your dreams.
They love it.
Who's having sex on your face right now?
Bacteria. It's usually bacteria. Go with me on this.
Mites.
You said mites. Mites was the right answer. Mites.
Mites.
Right.
Might be.
let's,
Mites maybe.
let's consider this. There are mites that live on the human face. They,
They're
unfortunately,
disgusted already. Don't go any further.
only 14% of them are visible to the human eye. Most of them are not.
14%?
Yes.
Visible?
Yeah.
Show us
Look
your
very
face.
closely.
I like your moustache, and then it starts curling up.
Visible. I mean, they're really, really tiny. They're very, very small. They have no anuses.
Oh, thank God for that. No money installs is the shittiest
Unfortunately, Alan, unfortunately, the fact they have no anuses means that when they die, a whole lifetime's waste is deposited on your face. That's what happens.
Is this 14% waste you can see?
No. But what percentage of human...
That's a lovely tan you've got there, Steve.
You may be right. But what percentage, tracking that waste, voided at the death of the mite on account of its having no anus, what percentage of human beings has been calculated to have mites on their face?
Oh, I know this.
Yeah?
But I'm not going to tell you. I'll guess at either 12 or 86.
Any other thoughts?
0.1%.
No,
High.
the answer is 100%. We all have these mites on our face. All of us. And you can't wash them out. They're perfectly happy to have water.
Her Majesty the Queen. Her
Yes.
Majesty the Queen.
Royal mites.
Has anusless mites wandering about with
Bravo.
Millie on her face.
German mites!
Unbelievable. Her Royal Highness.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But there it is. We all have mites on our face.
Are
But
they-
there are also, some people believe 2/3, and other scientists believe 98% of us have eyebrow mites. Although one of us here won't have eyebrow mites.
That might not have eyebrows.
So he doesn't. So he doesn't.
I don't got no eyebrows because Mum says it's because I'm special.
You are special.
I am.
You are.
I lost my hair when I was 6.
Was it traumatic? Did you bang your head or something?
Well, you know, because Duncan Goodhue fell out of a tree.
Yeah.
Well, it was my head he landed on. And that...
Because...
I think it's an overactive immune system that something happened and then something inside me said, right, we don't need no hair. Right,
You treated your hair as a foreign invader.
Yeah, maybe it was just a warm day and we didn't have the window open. I don't know.
Maybe you're just a super evolved human because we don't really need hair.
No,
and
we
we're all
do.
going
This
there.
country's cold. We do. We do. I suffer. I do suffer.
Now, which of your organs most resembles an elephant's trunk?
Go on, who wants it? Alan?
No.
Who wants it?
Go on, you go on.
I'm just trying to think of the most humorous way to phrase it.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. It's not penis. It isn't penis.
Isn't it? No.
Well,
Can your penis do that?
an elephant's... There may be... It's a dangling, pendulous appendage, your penis, and so is a trunk, but really, truly resembling in structure.
That's not one there, is it?
It's
Down the
swinging,
bottom.
yes.
That's it. He's got tusks down there.
There's a lot
Move
going
out the
on.
way.
The elephant can...
It has a...
Good God.
It does.
Yes. All right.
It has a...
Very amusing. There's an animal that has organs of generation. Let's laugh at that for a long time.
Yeah, but it's quite funny.
What is it about the trunk? We have
Is
an
it
organ
the-
that is like the trunk.
The prehensility, is that a
It
word?
African elephants have almost like lips which can pick up a blade of grass, prehensile kind of little bits there. But that's the actual tongue itself is interesting. It's a muscle.
Hang on. So the...
I mean,
what about...
the trunk?
Have you given me
The trunk
the
is
tongue.
the trunk, and our tongue is the same.
So what
Our
about it?
tongue is also a muscle. It's
I
a
reckon-
muscular hydrostat. The reason the trunk can take on any shape is because it's all muscle, and mostly, therefore, water, which you wouldn't think of a muscle, but it's true. And water can't be compressed, of course. Liquids cannot be compressed.
It can.
Under
I've had a
pressure.
Capri Sun and they've got that packet and they
You can
carry
put
it
them
around.
under pressure, but they will burst out.
So that means, like, so you can pull a muscle. So does that mean that sometimes an elephant will be flicking
pull
away
its
and it'll go,
tongue.
I've got a cramp up my trunk.
It's a horrible thought.
And have to rub a bit of...
You have to go some to pull a muscle in your tongue, though, don't you?
Well, one something to muscles. Which of us here has the strongest muscle?
Well, it's bound to be the lady, isn't it?
I don't look like that.
For the birth thing,
Yes, so which muscle would it be?
pelvic floor. They're always going on about the pelvic.
It's the uterus.
Oh, the uterus!
Uterus is a muscle. Yeah, yeah. And of all the muscles in the human body, it exerts the most pressure, pound for pound. The amount of force that it exerts is equivalent to a longbow. So if you imagine someone...
Good God.
Pray God, I'm looking under the desk going, don't have a longbow under there, please.
Is that
not
why, is that
prepared
why
to do
when
that.
my wife went into labour, she put an apple on my head?
Well, the jaw can exert pressure, which is extremely high, 500 pounds per square inch, roughly, which is enormous. And the gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, the buttock muscle. But it is the uterus that wins the prize.
Now, you mentioned the gluteus maximus, the arse muscles there. This is a true thing, right? It is physically impossible for the human buttocks to break an egg. That is true. That is absolutely 100% true, and I've tried it. What the beautiful
You
thing...
mean you put it in the crack, in the cleavage?
As much as you want.
You're
You
not
put
allowed
it-
to work in
you-
kitchens anymore. It keeps going back like Typhoid Mary.
If you put the egg between the buttocks, and then doesn't matter how hard you squeeze, impossible to crack the egg. Now, here's the thing. I know that to be true. There might be people watching this who question that. And I like to think all over the country.
People are now introducing eggs into the area.
Is Noble lying or not?
I mean, if you've got somebody lying there, you put an egg there, if somebody else is there to go like that...
Ah, but then that's not the
You're
muscle
saying-
doing it.
Ah, OK,
Well, you can't-
yeah.
That's the
You can't-
point.
you
It's the
can't put-
muscle.
yeah.
You can't
Can
put
you
an egg
buy
in.
a twitch, a pulling in?
Exactly.
I'm doing it now.
I think the worry would be...
That Cadbury's cream egg is gone.
I think that's
Probably melting rather than...
I think the worry is that you do it, the egg could go right up.
So you see, that's interesting.
So, yes, your tongue is a muscular hydrostat, like an elephant's trunk. Who has the best teeth in the world? I really like this question.
The
and
Bee Gees.
answer. Bee Gees? They have good teeth.
John Bishop?
I'm looking for a nation. I'm looking for people.
Americans.
Oh.
Ooh, who did you say Americans?
No, I didn't say it.
Is it Scandinavian? It must be the Scandinavians. Oh, no. it'd be-
English.
It'd be the...
Yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah.
British! The British have the best teeth in the world. It's true.
We win again!
Yeah, according to the OECD, the Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development, international body, they
Well
looked at
remembered.
all the different nations of the Earth, and they found that according to fillings and decay and so on, the British children had the best teeth on planet Earth.
Did they
And
just go to
that's-
one particular school in Nottingham?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
it was
but they said that that's because we've got less fillings. Maybe it's because we don't go to the dentist at all.
fewer fillings.
Fewer fillings.
Just being silly.
Not knock.
Yeah, who's there?
To.
To who?
No, it's to whom.
And now, as is our general practice, it's time to prescribe a dose of general ignorance. Figures on buzzers. What did Gabriele Falloppio call these? Yes, Lucy.
My bloody tubes.
My beloved tubes. He didn't call them tubes.
Are they those doctor? What do they call it? Beats. Those headphones. The Beats.
Fallopians by Dre.
Yeah.
Fallopian tubes, we think of.
Yeah.
But fallope.
He called them something else.
He thought, when he identified these shapes inside the lady person,
A lady's pipes.
yeah, he thought they reminded him of what were in those days rather long musical instruments with an end like a trumpet's bell. These were tubas, and so he called them tubas. And if you have a tuba, if you have a word ending in A in Italian, how do you pluralize it? What is tuba?
Tube.
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 With an E on the end, spelled T-U-B-E. So when it went around the world as his tube, his tubas, people saw the word tube. But in fact, he called them tubas.
So now when a lady breaks wind, she can say, I'm sorry, it's just my fallopian tube.
The old tuba.
Philippine tuba. Exactly.
Sorry about the
No,
tuba.
tube. Here's an easy question. What's a hip fracture?
It's cracking the hip bone.
Is it not really a fracture, and that's why you're asking us to
Fracture of the hip.
Oh, I see.
A hip fracture is not a fracture of the hip.
Yeah.
I know it's weird to say this, but it's true. A hip fracture is a fracture of the femur, of the long thigh bone. There.
OK, but what if you actually fracture your hip?
That's a pelvic fracture.
All right, but what if you actually fracture your pelvis? We could go on and then... It's a different name for every
No, it does seem mad. It's a question that was designed simply to get points out of Alan, and it worked. And so
Oh, well, no wonder the doctors are going mad.
it is a bit peculiar, I grant you. And we now come coughing and spluttering to the most heavily doctored part of the whole evening, the scores. Oh, my. Well, in first place, with not a cough, not a tickle, clear skin, free of mites, on 9 points, it's Lucy Porter! In second place, almost as healthy, it's Ross Noble on 7 points. On -5 with a tickety throat and not looking too well, it's Matt Lucas. Groaning and wheezing at death's door on -44, Alan Davis. So it only remains for me to thank Matt, Ross, Lucy and Alan. I leave you with the words of Rodney Dangerfield. When I was born, I was so ugly, the doctors flew I. Where tonight we're on parade for all things military. Here to do battle are the flag-waving Jimmy Carr, the saber-rattling Sheila Hancock, the warmongering Jeremy Clarkson, and the ambulance-driving Alan Davis. Their buzzers are suitably belligerent. Jimmy goes... Sheila goes... Jeremy goes... And Alan goes... Nice. What was unusual about Britain's war with Finland in 1941?
Well, not a shot was fired.
Oh!
No, it was the only time, I think, that two democracies have ever gone to war with one another.
That's a hell of an alarm.
Yes.
Does it know what we're thinking?
Yes, definitely.
How did you know that?
Welcome to my world.
11 years ago, Jeremy Clarkson, you said on this very programme that the
was
1941 Anglo-Finnish
Yeah.
War was the only one fought between two democracies.
Yeah. Well, have we declared war since the show started?
No, there had been others before. A viewer named Otto Lowe has written to us.
Otto,
Yeah, to point out that we were wrong, so we're retroactively taking points from you today. You had a slightly bad start to the year, but now it's got terrible. I'm really sorry.
It is 11 years ago, I mentioned.
There was the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War of 1780 to 1784, the Football War of 1969 between
What
El
was that?
Salvador and Honduras.
Football war.
The Football War.
Had Honduras kicked a football into their...
It only lasted 10 hours, let's be said.
Was there a half-time?
there was a-
Well, I'll go back to my original answer then, which was not a shot was fired.
I'm afraid that's not true either. 13 people were killed in the Anglo-Finnish War. The British attacked a port called Petsamo on the 30th of July, 1941.
I still think it's the only proper war fought between two democracies.
Well, you know,
Give in,
hooliganism.
Jeremy, give in. You should have gone home after the programme and looked it up, and then you'd have known.
I did look it up before I mentioned it 11 years ago.
Well, Wikipedia has got more accurate since then. But the fact is, despite its reputation, the Anglo-Finnish War of 1941 is not the only time two democracies have fought each other. Now, if I can be serious for a moment, more than 100 million people were killed in wars during the 20th century, and the total number of people ever killed by wars could be as many as 1 billion. Einstein described war as a cloak that covers acts of murder, and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry called it a disease like typhus. With all that in mind, here is my question to you. Why did Hitler have such a silly moustache?
Thank God for that. I thought I was on the wrong show for a minute. Well, very serious.
I'm sure you'd agree with my description of war, though, wouldn't you?
I
Sheila?
would absolutely. This is a difficult show for me to be on because I'm a Quaker pacifist. So I'm not an ideal person.
Were you,
on the,
were
on
you
the
born
thing.
a Quaker?
No, I wasn't. I was a Quaker by convincement, as they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And because my family, the Fry family, were very early Quakers.
Of course they
all the
were.
way,
Of course
no
they
doubt.
were,
It's
yeah.
a very admirable thing, and the pacifism is taken very seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely thing until Hitler comes along, and then it's not much use.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it was.
Shaved his moustache
And I
off.
think the reason he had that moustache is he was probably a fan of Oliver Hardy.
Ah, well, it's certainly true that they were popular in the 20s and increasingly in the 30s. Among, well, Charlie Chaplin,
Exactly.
of course, is best known. But supposedly Hitler changed from what was a relatively bushy moustache. You may have seen a famous photograph of him as a Gefreiter, a corporal in the First World War. There he is on the left. But there are a couple of stories. No one's quite sure which is true. There was a fellow who served with him, Alexander Moritz Fry, great-uncle Alexander. He was in the same regiment in the First World War as Hitler, and he said that Hitler trimmed it into the familiar toothbrush in order to fit into the gas mask properly.
Oh.
Fry's account is controversial, apparently. He went on to become a satirist and fantasy novelist, starting a family tradition.
So here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did kill Hitler.
I can't take that away from you, Jimmy.
Credit
It's a
when
true
credit
fact.
is due.
That's true. Some historians believe that Hitler only adopted the tash in 1919, and his sister-in-law, who lived in Liverpool...
Well, she had one as well.
She may have done. Do you know what her name was?
Muriel.
Almost, as it were.
Gauss Adolf.
Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah, that was her name. Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah. Yes, she was married to Alois Jr., who was Hitler's half-brother. And they had a son, William Patrick Hitler.
Billy Hitler.
William Patrick Hitler went to America and won a Purple Heart in the Navy.
Changed his name, I presume.
Eventually to Stuart Houston, I think. And he claimed he wanted to forget anything to do with his uncle, but he named his first son Alexander Adolf Stuart Houston.
Aren't there,
really
aren't there
forget him that
still,
much.
in the American phone book, I know there's a weird fact, it's quite interesting, won't work on this show, where there's still, I think, 9 people called Adolf Hitler.
Really?
That were obviously born before he came to...
Oh, watch it, because in 11 years they're going to ask you a question here.
You're really you're simmering about that.
I'm not a sore loser.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, Bridget, in her memoir, said that he came to visit Liverpool and that she told him that he should trim the ends of his moustache to make it less bushy. But, as she put it, as in most things, he went too far. Put him in his place.
Hey, take it easy, Bridget.
Yeah, and speaking of things going a little bit too far, here's a question on mutinies. Everybody remembers the mutiny on the Bounty, but give me the name and rank of the man who was overthrown and cast adrift in an open boat.
Christian.
Fletcher Christian, wasn't he the one that... wasn't he... Is this just the BBC still getting at me?
You were about to correct Sheila, weren't you?
I was about to say, no, Fletcher Christian was the one who
mutineer.
did the mutinying, but Captain... Was he a captain and was he called Bligh?
He was called Bligh. He was called William Bligh, but he was a lieutenant commander.
I thought it was Marlon Brando.
Yeah, he was a commanding lieutenant on the Bounty, and there was a mutiny, and they cast him adrift in an open boat. And they gave him just a sextant and a pocket watch, and miraculously he made it all the way to Timor. It was a remarkable feat. But Bligh seems to have had problems commanding people because he was made governor of New South Wales quite a few years after the mutiny. And they mutinied. There was a military putsch to kick him out.
He obviously had the knack.
He had a bit of a knack.
So this guy had a knack of upsetting people he worked with?
Yeah.
What?
Pompey. Which of these was originally used for military purposes?
The bumper car.
Not the bumper car, in fact.
The Ferris wheel.
Not the Ferris wheel.
The merry-go-round.
That thing that goes round
No,
for
the other one.
seasickness.
Well, there we are. That's one... We've all gone for something different.
That's rather pleasing. And the only one that's correct is the merry-go-round, which was originally used for that purpose of war training. You'd sit on the horse, and a servant would have a ring, and you'd have a lance, and you'd go round and round, and you'd try and get your lance through the ring to practice your accuracy.
I mean, surely bullshit. No? That's what America was invented to...
A carousel, it was called a carosello, and that was...
So they're originally like, sort of like a tennis ball machine?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Call of Duty's better, isn't it, really?
But while we're on the subject of fairgrounds, there'd been a particular problem in the Boer War, where they'd noticed that the British were not very good at aiming and firing rifles. So they passed special laws...
One of the basics, really, isn't it?
Yeah. They passed special laws that allowed fairgrounds to have rifle ranges, so you could fire rifles, live ammunition.
Sorry, there's live ammunition in the fairground?
Yes. Have you never gone to one?
I've gone to one of those, but it's always like a little...
Just a pellet?
Yeah, a pellet.
I mean, mostly you get the pellets, but what is allowed in law, even to this day, is live, actual ammunition, proper ammunition.
In a fairground?
Yeah.
Really? Gosh.
Wow.
Well, really?
Yeah, really.
What, a 7.62 millimetre...
Up to .23.
It is frowned upon if you bring your own gun.
I was going to say...
I want to make it absolutely clear
my
for Jeremy.
AK, I'd get all those balloons.
But 2.2 would work, so you could have
It
that.
would be quite good to turn up at a fairground
With your own.
with an AK-47 and go, "You'll be taking that bear home? Someone needs a cuddle?"
Have you ever fired an AK-47?
Not in anger, Jeremy.
No, somebody pushes onto automatic and quite literally stood me in front of a barn door and I missed it.
Is that... It
And
doesn't
we
have a-
all would. It
Of
just
course,
rides
there's a
around
recoil.
like a mad
Of course, the
thing.
man that did that isn't here to tell the story. Very unfortunate incident.
Never breaks down and it never hits anything.
And what, it just flies?
It just does that and then rushes about in your hands. Terribly dangerous.
Well, that explains all of the series of the A-Team.
Yes.
So it is actually realistic, the idea that, you know, no one got shot ever.
Nobody could possibly get shot with an AK. Not unless they weren't aiming at them. If I aimed at you, most of the audience would be history.
Well, that's you, not everybody. I mean, if
No,
they
it's
knew
pretty-
how to handle it.
No, it's pretty much everybody. Unless you're a burly Russian shot put enthusiast, then you could probably hold on to it, but I couldn't.
I fired a machine gun in Vietnam.
Really? Did you?
Did you hit anything?
I hit the end of the field.
A field's
But they
reasonable.
got all these old weapons from the American War, and you go up and you buy bullets. How many bullets do you want?
Oh, my
I think I
goodness.
bought 10 bullets, and they put it in, and then you squeeze the trigger, they've gone. You think, I wish I had more.
That's
the evil of guns, isn't it? It does something.
Sheila, you're a Quaker pacifist. Have you got any good gun stories?
Oh, dear.
It'd be so good, though, if you went, yeah. Has anyone ever had a go on a bazooka?
Well, that was what we
go
were
on,
told,
on.
that you could bazooka cows and things, but I didn't get the chance to do that.
You're a vegetarian!
We had a...
You see, this is what guns do, isn't it?
Oh, the other
Vegetarian
thing-
of the year.
The other thing that I heard about was that they used cattle. I know that was a stand-up routine I did. That's not true.
You're beginning to blur the lines.
It comes to something when I'm struggling to remember a fact, and it's actually something I made up myself.
Anyway, one important skill for a soldier is map reading. But why are maps so difficult to fold?
Well, because now they're on your phone, so you've got to break it.
Well, we've got some ones that aren't on the phone.
My father was a navigator in rallying. And
Oh, was he?
He could phone one in the passenger seat of a Mini Cooper at dark at night.
Did he pass that skill on?
This is torture, you know.
And so whenever I tried to phone him back, he was
Genuinely, this is my idea of hell.
Of hell, yeah.
It is hell.
That's right, because
True.
there are severe problems.
Yeah.
There they are.
I mean, I tell you, probably the best idea is not to unfold it in the first place, Steve.
Impressive.
So anything with maps, my father
Did
was a
your fa-
navigator. And I know what all the symbols
Sheila,
mean.
we've missed our turn. Oh, concentrate.
Right, I'll race you.
Now, yes.
Okay, which is
Sort of doing what I do there, I think.
My car is just full of those.
Pyongyang. Pyongyang.
Haven't you got a sat-nav?
Where would we be without sat-nav?
Hey!
Not
Soul Street, probably at those studios, I don't know.
Come on, everyone, make an effort.
The fact is, most maps have got 9 folds one way and 2 the other, which means that there are 2,048 different ways of folding them.
Really?
2 to the power of 11. A man called Mura, who's an aeronautical designer, was doing solar panel foldings, and he came up with this way of doing it. And all you have to do is that, and it folds. You just push the corners together. And it doesn't matter what you do.
I bet you
that
hand
mad?
it
What's
back
more,
to
it
me,
doesn't get.
wouldn't
It doesn't
work.
get. Sorry.
It wouldn't work if you gave it to me.
Stephen, did you...
Well, I'll give you one.
The one that you've got there, is that a map of Mars?
You've got one there. So, and you just take the top
you
right
just
and bottom
push
left corners, or do any other way.
That way?
When it's so folded, it just
Take the
does it
corners
by
and push them
itself.
together.
Oh, my God.
That's it. Jeremy, you've done it.
But this man is the greatest genius who
Isn't he?
ever
I
lived.
know. It's fantastic.
Who is he?
He's called Mura. He's a. God.
Of course, what you don't realise, he was trying to make a crane.
Koryo Mura, his name is, and they are very
I
handy.
would have been so fucking pleased if I...
Well, there are other things you can do with folding. I've got some tissues here, and
What are we doing now?
Oh,
I'm gonna give you each a tissue. All right, so pass.
OK.
There we are. Pass down. Oops.
What are we doing with the,
What do we
with the
do?
tissue?
I'll have one here.
OK, so what are we up to?
What you're trying to do is scrunch it up
Oh, yeah, OK.
like this in your hands.
Yeah.
You scrunch it up, and then
Stick it right up your bum.
No, you then bounce it up. You try and think of an animal. Don't think of an animal. I'm thinking of an animal. I'm thinking of a sort of swan or something like
I've
that.
really scrunched mine up.
I'm thinking of a swan. You see?
Yeah.
Like that. Can you see my swan?
Do I have to think of a swan?
There you are. Have you not known swan? There we are.
Tiger, I've got tiger.
I've got absolutely nothing at all.
Oh, well.
I thought of a badger, but he got run over.
Excellent. Well done, all. Now, what's the worst thing you can find in a Morrison sandwich?
Well, Morrison was food minister during the war.
Herbert.
Got straight to it.
He was in charge of sandwiches, was he?
No, well, he was in fact in charge of home defence. And he
Making
came
sure
up...
no one got in and took him.
Home Guard, Dad's
Not the Home Guard exactly, but he came up with a home defence idea, which was a type of shelter. It was for the more deprived families, and
Not
it
the
was
Andersons.
they were
It was
given
indoors.
They were given free. It was indoors.
Indoors as opposed to the Anderson shelter, which was outside.
Exactly
Which
right.
I spent my life in. And a dear friend of mine was in one of those, and her house took a direct hit, and she survived.
Yes, one of the things we wanted to say is that it was actually not, as it might seem, a rather unsafe contrivance, but it actually worked really, really well,
Yeah,
it seems.
it did.
But there was one problem. Sometimes the top bit, which was solid metal, and the bottom was solid metal, sometimes the top bit just crashed down and the person was caught in what was then called a Morrison sandwich.
Oh, God.
But it was considered safer, and it was also quite loved, unlike the Anderson shelter, which is pretty hated, is that right?
Well, I quite liked it, actually. You used to be outside and you could watch, you always had binoculars, and you could watch the dogfights going on, you know, in the Battle of Britain, and you felt kind of safe down there.
Yeah.
The only thing was that you were frightened that you'd be trapped in the shelter. I sleep with my hand over my head because there was an escape hatch at the back of the Anderson shelter with a spanner that you would use to get out. And I used to sleep like that on my bunk. And I still do. I sleep with one hand over the hand.
You could probably sleep somewhere else.
There's the
now,
one on the
Sheila.
right, and this one on the left. In case you wonder what the one on the left... It's actually a weight test. It's being tested for how much it can take. And as you can see, it's a fair amount of weight. Anyway, yes, Morrison's sandwiches, as opposed to Morrison sandwiches, which were people caught there. There's a Morrison sandwich, and of course they're delightful and fresh and charming, and I wouldn't want to suggest anything about them that was unpleasant. Of course I would.
You've never had one in your life, have you?
No, but... I know they exist. So, yes, Morrison sandwiches could be deadly, but Morrison's sandwiches are, of course, delicious. What begins with M that you could shoot with one of these?
Those guys are tiny.
A mallard.
Mallard is very good. Absolutely recognise what that is.
It's a punt gun.
It is indeed a punt gun. There's a few punters in.
You're good old guns, aren't you, Jeremy?
I shot one of those, but I shot a clay pigeon with it. And proved that a man can actually fly.
So you don't tell me you weren't on a punt.
No, I wasn't on a punt. And there's a sort of momentum thing goes, and you get it going, and then you just can't stop it. And I was airborne for 20 minutes.
That's one of the reasons they had them on punts. Is
I mean, the boat goes backwards.
That's the point.
You could fire that in Norfolk, and you would wind up in Stavanger 3 weeks doing 300 miles.
Well, that's true. But also, more distressingly, perhaps, if you like waterfowl, one shot can destroy up to 50 at a time. So you've got to have...
So is it shot like a shotgun?
Yeah, it's just huge amount
No,
of blast.
but, I mean, I know you're a vegetalist, and just fine, but what I don't understand about these is that if you actually hit a duck, it vaporised it. And apart from licking the lake or the grass, there's no nutritional value from an atomised...
You're pretty much right.
Seriously, why do they have such a great big gun for
Well,
it?
it was used in the United States of America, of course, in the early part of the 19th century. But even the Americans realised they were going to deplete their waterways just too much, so by 1860 it was banned. You couldn't use it.
And then they use hand grenades now.
Yes, too.
I got picked up, this is another gun story, and I apologise, Sheila, but I got picked up by a man once at an airport in Phoenix, and he was a big noise in the NRA, and we had very little in common. And he drove along in complete silence, and he just turned to me after about 10 minutes and went, "What is your personal preference of firearm?" That was a small talk. That was small talk. I don't really have
And you
one,
said
mate.
punt gun.
Punt gun, mate. Yeah, so
I tried that earlier with Sheila. We didn't really hit it off.
I almost want to go to a rifle range with you to see you with one of these guns. You're obviously hopeless at it.
The punt gun was used to massacre mallards, Muscovy ducks, mergansers and other mother duckers. From ducks to drakes, what was the name of the fleet of ships that got its arse kicked in 1589 during the Anglo-Spanish War?
The Spanish Armada.
Taking one for the team now.
I knew that would...
Yeah, that was 1588.
Oh.
Spanish
the
Armada.
next year?
The next year.
They came back another
No,
go?
this is what's so interesting. This is the English Armada. And what's interesting is that we just don't teach this in schools. But it's a far worse defeat on
Was
the
this
English...
Cadiz?
No, Cadiz was singeing the King of Spain's beard, as it was called.
Yes.
It was a success.
Cadiz is,
This is a...
Cadiz is pronounced Cardiff, by the way.
Cadiz.
If you say Cardiff, you're much closer
Cardiff.
to the way the Spanish say it, as I've found out.
Oh, really?
Just say Cardiff, and they go, oh,
That way. You walk to
you
it.
say Cadiz, they go, eh?
But anyway, it's
Was
nothing
it
to do
the
with
one where
Cadiz.
we went and did Toulon?
No, what's interesting about this is that the English had a plan, having seen off the Spanish Armada. Drake, filled with confidence, thought they would really defeat Philip II of Spain and we would really finish the job. Instead of which, we lost 40 ships, and it was an utter disaster. But they don't teach it in English schools. The Spanish Armada that is taught a lot and we celebrate was not really that much of a triumph, to be honest. We didn't sink their ships in the Great Battle. The fire ships that Drake's invented to send into them didn't destroy any Spanish shipping. So it was just not really that great a triumph.
It was the wind that beat them, not really Drake. But what was the... I've forgotten what the question was about 1589.
Yeah, what was the name of the fleet of ships that got its ass kicked?
Oh, it's the name of the fleet of ships, I don't know.
It was the English Armada.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And it's...
Yeah, well, I don't want to learn about that.
Anyway, the year after the Spanish Armada, an English Armada was soundly beaten by Spain. We don't really like to talk about it. That was something that people are generally ignorant about, and here are some more. Fingers on buzzers, if you please. I'll give you 100 points if you can name one of the countries where either the first or last shots of the First World War were fired.
Well,
It's worth it for 100 points.
France.
England.
It's where that guy, the king, the man was
Austria,
shot in the carriage.
Turkey.
Where was that?
Well, that first shot in Sarajevo
Bosnia.
was not the
Sarajevo.
shot of the war. It's what caused the war a month or so later.
You mean soldiers?
But once the war was underway, the first shot that was
Romania.
actually fired in it...
The Isle of Man.
Denmark.
Jersey.
No, I'll tell you, it was Togoland.
that was the next thing I was going to say.
It was a German colony. And on the 4th of August 1914, the British Empire declared war on Germany. And 3 days later, it attacked Togoland, Germany's small but strategic colony there. And Regimental Sergeant Major Alhaji Grunchi was the first to shoot back when the German-led police force shot the approaching British forces.
He was obviously better at it than Jeremy.
So he
Did he
became...
actually hear anything?
He didn't necessarily hit anybody,
I've
but
never hit a
he
thing.
became the first member of the British Army to fire a shot in the war.
Because I'd be the perfect armed guard for a Quaker meeting.
You were. I'm loving everything that you're so
Yeah.
bad with.
Have you missed a game? Yes, I have.
But the war also ended in Africa, in fact. The last actual battle took place on a golf course in northern Rhodesia, which is now called Zambia. They stopped fighting eventually, but German troops fought on for ages in what is now Tanzania, Tanganyika as it was, and they surrendered on November the 25th.
If you shoot
1918.
someone on a golf course, is it considered polite to shout "for"? I would think it would be the least you could do.
Probably. So, yes, 14 days after the armistice was the last shot of the war that anybody can find, which was in Tanganyika. So, yeah, the first shots of World War I were fired in Togo, the last in Tanganyika. And finally, our last question, what happened to the last of the Mohicans?
You had a haircut.
Yeah.
Wild West show?
Well, what is a Mohican?
A hairstyle.
Well, aside from hairstyle, yes.
Well, it's an
American
Indian.
tribe, is it?
Well,
Oh, no way.
say what?
I've gone and trodden on one of those landmines. 'Cause you can't say Indian, can you? What do I say? Native American.
Native American.
Actually, you can say Indian. I found doing a documentary all over the reservation.
say it.
They called each other Indians.
I nearly got fired for that one.
AIM is the... The American Indian Movement is the premier political body fighting for the rights of American Indians, and they call themselves the American Indian Movement, AIM.
It's a whole new world since
Yeah.
I left.
There are two sets of Native Americans, American Indians, that have been known as Mohicans. They're the Mohegans, who live in Connecticut and run the Casino of the Sky.
Yeah, are they the Mohegan Sun Casino? I've been there.
It's called Mohegan, is it?
Mohegan, yeah.
And then the Mohicans, or Mohicans, also provide a gambling service for you at the North Star Mohican Resort in Wisconsin, known as the Midwest's friendliest casino. Yeah.
The guy on the right there is rubbish.
Jeez.
The worst Native American ever.
It doesn't join in,
Is he?
It's going... No one told me we were supposed to dress as Indians. Oh, they're ridiculous.
So, we haven't seen the last of the Mohicans. They're still coining it in their casinos. Ka-ching, ka-ching, chingo, ka-choo, 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 ching, ching. As Neville Chamberlain said, in war, no matter which side may call itself the victor, there are no winners, all are losers. And so it is with QI. But let's see who is the least losing of them all. Lord, oh, bless my blimey. Well, I have to say it's a fantastic score for a first-time performance. Wow! Look at that. Quaking away at -2 is Sheila Hancock. In second place, with -8, it's Jimmy Carr. -8 is good. In third place, going great guns, it's Jeremy. -13, which means... And only just last is... Alan on -14. From Sheila, Jimmy, Jeremy, Alan and me, and I leave you with this deep thought of American humorist Jack Handey. I can picture in my mind a world without war, a world without hate, and I can picture us attacking that world because they'd never existed. Welcome to QI, where tonight we'll be taking in a magnificent miscellany of things beginning with M. Please welcome the Mundy-Vagant Rod Gilbert. The Marmoracious Noel Fielding. A woman of great muley ebriety, Carrie Lloyd. And macerating in the corner, Alan Davies. Onward, the buzzers. They're, frankly, a miscellany of musical mischief. Carriad goes... Noel goes...
Oh.
Rod goes... And Alan goes... Now then, what was the matter with the Gilbert U238 Atomic Energy Children's Chemistry Set?
Did it have uranium in it?
It sure did. That's what...
It's going glowing green.
That's what U238 is, yeah, absolutely. It contained uranium and other sources of alpha, beta and gamma radiation, including good, healthy polonium, which was in there. Yeah. And it included a Geiger counter and instructions on how to mine for uranium. And
This is the start of the Iranian weapons program. We have the kit.
The packaging said it was completely safe and harmless. It was sold in 1951, 1952 for $49.50, which is about £300 now.
Whoa.
So it was pricey?
It was pricey.
You wanted your polonium even then, it cost you?
And that's why they stopped making it.
Because it was too expensive?
Yeah, the margins were not good enough for them to make much of a profit on it. As you see, it says along the top, another Gilbert Hall of Science product. And
It also says exciting and safe.
Yeah. That's right, absolutely.
I'm not sure those two things go together.
Well, the guy responsible was called Alfred Carlton Gilbert. And he came up with a number of sets for children. I mean, there was a chemistry set which contained ammonium nitrate, which is the principal ingredient for fertilizer bombs.
You like the stuff, the good stuff.
Yeah, he liked to give kids exactly the good stuff.
Agent Orange.
The first experiment in that kit was to make gunpowder.
He just didn't like children, did he?
But his most famous invention is huge in America. It's the American equivalent of Meccano, which is called Erector. And there it is. Are there giggles from our audience? It contains the word erect. Well, there you are.
They're still all smiling out there now. I love that word.
I just love the idea that you can make a Ferris wheel out of erections.
It interconnects with any penis. Simple docking.
One of the...
Sorry, Stephen, I was doing a Ferris wheel as if it were attached to my cock. I'm sorry. I'm lowering the tone
I
again.
accept that. But it was all part of that time, 1950s, this incredible worship of the nuclear bomb. And it even got to the stage where you could get a cereal toy, which was an atomic bomb ring celebrating the Lone Ranger series. There it is. There's the atomic bomb inside a ring. And it contains polonium alpha. So it gives off brilliant flashes of light as part of nuclear disintegration. So your little boy and your little girl each have one from the cereal packet, and they flash. But it's weird that this was for the Lone Ranger, which you may remember was a Western set in the 19th century.
Yeah.
But somehow he had the atom bomb in some very complicated story.
So he had an atomic bomb in his ring?
Yeah.
And it wasn't
That's one of my favourite ever sentences on this show.
And that's when he was running the Erecto music.
I've got an A-bomb in my ring.
You sounded like Jeremy Clarkson there.
Jeremy would love an A-bomb in his ring.
With an A-bomb in his ring.
So he's got an A-bomb in his ring, and then decades later, James Bond comes along, and all his watch does is fire a dart into a mouse or something. It gives you a dead leg.
I've basically got the Lone Ranger's costume on tonight.
You've got an A-bomb in your ring today?
I have, yeah. At the end of the show, I'll let that off.
Why didn't you...
This is not a small firework display.
We'll all gather round to see the lights.
This is not like we found this obscure present in some cereal packs for a 4-month period. There were over 1 million of these were made.
Really?
It was a big promotion. There was a boy, as late as the 90s, 94, who tried to construct a nuclear reactor in his mother's shed in his garden in Michigan. He was the nuclear Boy Scout. There are his badges, including top left. He's holding up the nuclear badge. I didn't Scouts had one, but they seem to.
You can't even fix a blind.
But they called him the radioactive Boy Scout. And when I said he was trying to construct a nuclear reactor, I mean it. He was trying to construct a nuclear reactor. His safety included wearing a lead poncho. Where do you find a lead poncho? Yes, you have one.
You must have a lead poncho.
You're the only person who would have a lead poncho.
He's not going to make a nuclear... He's got an arrow to show which way up his top goes on.
There is that. Well, yeah, and he threw away his clothes after each session that he was in his mother's shed. He was in the middle of purifying thorium when he was rumbled by the authorities. Wow. And his shed was found to be 1,000 times more radioactive than background radiation and was buried in the desert.
How did they take his shed to the desert? It's amazing. Yeah, we're going to have to take the bird bath as well. This is, it's washing line, that's right.
And the trellis has got to go.
Oh, yeah. That's barbecue gone, mate, gone.
So, if you want to really light up your children's faces, you could get them a radioactive chemistry lab. Which place, beginning with M, holds the world's deadest parties?
Milton Keynes.
Michael Gove's underpants.
Maidstone.
Amazing. You've got Maidstone. Thank you for that. Well, no, it's an island, one of the largest islands on Earth.
Oh,
Madagascar.
The Malagasy people, the Malagasy people. Yeah, every few years they dig up their ancestors and have a party and dance with them over their heads. Yeah, I know.
Not as weird as a radioactive chemistry.
No, it isn't exactly.
They dig them up.
Yeah, they dress them in silk. Dress them in silk scarves.
It's what we do in Camden.
They also spray their ancestors' bodies with perfume, perhaps, understandably, and they bathe them in sparkling wine. After the dance, the corpses are placed on the ground.
Yeah.
Like that. See, they're the corpses in winding sheets.
Oh, too weird, too
weird. And the elders tell their children about the significance of their relatives. But they also tell the dead ancestors about the children that have been born since the ancestors died. Right. So they have a sort of two-way communication, as it were, about their families.
They should have booked a bigger hall.
Yeah, well, yes, it's full and bouncy.
Amazing. That's amazing. We don't talk about death enough, just to bring up in a comedy show.
I am not getting my grandma out in a potato sack.
No, you mean we do hide
I'm with
away
you,
from it
Karen.
here.
Yeah, we don't
do hide
talk
away
about
from
it
it here.
at all.
Other cultures are much more
I don't.
open.
I'm a goth. I'm all over it. I sleep in a coffin. No, you're right. We don't like to talk about it, but they celebrate it.
Exactly, they do. It's rather wonderful.
Do they drink at the party?
You must have
so.
to
Do they
get through
sometimes
that.
get home and think, oh, shit, I've left Grandma on the bus?
Supposedly they do it because they've had a dream in which an ancestor has visited them and told them they're cold in their grave and that they want to come up. This ceremony, it's called the Famadihana, and the whole taboo and folklore system of Madagascar is called Fada. And it's very strong. It's much stronger than it is in many other countries, and despite all the pressures on Madagascar as they are on all countries. And it seems a bit grim, but I think it's
quite nice,
fine.
I think.
It's the two things they're known for, that and square guitars.
Yes, they're very sound on. Now, for a serious medical malady, show me the symptoms of bicycle face.
Bicycle face?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's with goggles.
No, these are wheels.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Of course they're wheels.
What is bicycle face? When you get sucked off by your grifter?
Wow. Wow.
I better go.
Yes. No, that's the right answer. That's what I got written on the card. That's amazing. On my card in this universe, on the other hand... The Literary Digest in 1895 warned women cyclists... No, I'm looking at you.
I'm a woman. I'm a woman. That's okay.
That
You identify me as a woman.
It's got to get worse, I'm afraid.
Okay.
This thing is overexertion, the upright position on the wheel, and the unconscious effort to maintain one's balance produces a wearied and exhausted bicycle face.
And no one will marry you.
Yes. The main symptoms are a hard, clenched jaw and bulging eyes.
I wasn't sure what you were going to stop at.
Quite. As well as being flushed or pale. Either of those. Yeah. And wearing a haggard, anxious expression.
That's just the fear of patriarchy.
Yeah. Well, there was a worry. Some doctors said that cycling would irritate the pelvic organs and stimulate women to disturbing lusts.
If you can't get it at home, you get it on a bike, right, mate?
Yeah.
Get your stimulated pelvic organs.
Well, there's a downside, according to a French expert, who said it would ruin the female organs of matrimonial necessity. Now, Carrie, tell me, your organs of matrimonial necessity...
Excuse me? What are you asking me?
I'm just hoping that they haven't been ruined by bicycling.
female organs of natural necessity.
You know what? It's funny, because the clitoris, if you know that...
She said it! She said it! She said it!
I've drawn a rainbow, everyone. It's all right.
Where's Sue Perkins when you need her?
The clitoris is actually a very large organ.
Carry out.
And it's just literally the tip of an iceberg.
When you say literally the tip of an iceberg...
Yeah.
I knew I was looking for it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah, an artist in New York.
Artist in New York, and she made, like, this... obviously not to scale, clitoris, and she got women to ride on it. But it literally, it's huge. It's like there's this bit, and then there's these two other huge bits that are in the body. So it's just...
Who's looking behind you?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
But you have two, don't you? Well, it's one under each arm. Have I got this wrong? Alan, help me out.
It's OK, I didn't bring mine with me today. So to say it damages the marital organs is, again,
So how much more of it is there, then? Go on.
Oh, my God. Guys, we have to, like... Is this the bit where I tell you about... explain it to you? A woman at some point in your life should have explained this to you, but perhaps... I've never seen such fear in all your faces.
Do you think people will believe it if I say that my penis is only the tip of the iceberg in the door? It's a lot more under the surface, you haven't seen.
Well, the huge nerve ending coming out right out the top of my head.
Anyway, bicycle face was a medical condition that would apparently only affect lady cyclists. Now, how would this bird make an offer you couldn't refuse?
Oh, yeah, that bird. He does your tax returns.
It's called a brown-headed cowbird, rather
Right.
unimaginatively. It's got a brown head and it's on a cow.
I just don't want to know how it got the brown head. I don't want to think about how it got the brown head. That's as far as I can go. Now flap your wings. I can't.
You haven't seen the cow's legs, they're blue.
And we have to forget the cow in this instance, other than the fact that it's in its name. It is a parasitic bird, in a sense, a brood parasite. Do you know what a brood parasite might be? What's a brood?
A family of parasites.
If you're broody...
You want to have more parasites.
You want to have... The type of parasite it is a brood parasite. That's to say, it's parasitic in the way that it occupies a host's birthing place.
Womb.
Yes.
Not womb in this case, because they don't have wombs exactly, do they, birds? They
Oh, I thought it was in the
eggs.
cow. I thought it was
Oh,
like...
no, it's the bird. It's the bird that's the parasite.
Oh, OK.
It's a brood parasite. It lays its eggs in someone else's
I'd love if it was the cow
nest.
that was the parasite.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Living off the bird.
That would be such a flaw for a parasite to have to wait for the bird to land on you.
Running around, getting underneath bird.
Painted a H on your own back.
Put a nest on your back. The vacant sign.
Yeah, it's a brood parasite. It lays its egg like that, as does, more famously, our...
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo, yes. Cuckoo's the great British brood
Where does
parasite.
that nest wasn't on the back of that cow, was it?
No, I did say forget the cow, but I knew that was not going to be a helpful
I couldn't forget the
remark.
cow, Stephen.
Yeah, well, it's a question of why the birds put up with it. Why does the one that lays the blue eggs in this instance allow that to happen? Why didn't it just get rid of the egg? The answer is it does once. If it tries it, the bird that's laid that egg will come back and absolutely destroy the nest and everything in it. Wow. And the mother bird learns this, and next time laboriously builds a new nest, laboriously lays her own eggs. Next time a brown-headed cowbird comes along to lay the egg, they go, yep, you can have it, I'll look after it, it's no problem. It's basically a protection racket. They're gangster birds. Hence the phrase, make you an offer you can't refuse. But it works.
So which one was it? The one with the blue eggs or the other one?
The blue eggs is like the nice guy who runs the Italian delicatessen
Exactly,
for his
that's
family all these years, and then the other egg is the guy who comes round going, you're going to look after my egg. Otherwise, I'm going to...
Or you'll find a job for my boy. You'll find them a job.
You see this egg? You know what I'm going to do to this egg? If you go look after the other egg? And then he throws it out.
Eventually, because it's evolution, they'll start spraying their own blue egg that brown colour. Hey, someone's already done me, leave it.
You're right, that's quite likely.
Why haven't they evolved just to lay enough eggs so there's no gap?
Good point. You'd think they would,
Stop
wouldn't you?
leaving a gap!
Anyway, that's brown-headed cowbirds. Now, what starts with M and nearly destroyed the world 470 million years ago?
Magneto.
I can feel us being led by this image.
Yes.
In a
You're right.
direction.
I'm going to warn you. I'm in a good mood. Do not say meteor or meteorite or
Don't say
meteoroid.
either of
Looks
those.
like the logo for MasterChef.
Which is branding a pterodactyl. But,
A mirthquake.
a mirthquake. That's what we hope happens here every week.
Is it mitochondria? Is it something like bacterial that...
Well, it's a life form, you're absolutely right. It's a life form that destroyed all other life forms, virtually, on Earth. It was the Ordovician-Silurian extinction event. But it begins with M, this particular life form. It got rid of all the
Mouse.
oxygen... Sorry?
Mouse.
Wasn't a mouse. You've got the right consonants.
Consonants. All right.
M and a sir. M and a sir. It's wonderful how he's coming on, isn't it? It's moss.
Moss?
Yes. Moss is the answer.
Oh, how boring.
Yeah, hard to believe. Moss. It was like a phage. It ate away at rocks, even,
Hey, look,
altering
Karen,
them
there's an
chemically.
iceberg like your clitoris.
If you've just joined the show...
I can usually predict almost everything that's going to be said on this show, but there's an iceberg like your clitoris. There's a new one.
That's exactly what I was talking about. out. Don't just work with what you see. Yeah, you've got to work with more
There's
underneath
moss on it, is there?
Yes, mate. Keep the moss on. What's wrong with you? You don't want to help a child. Wear your moss and be proud, ladies.
You're right.
Interestingly, you only get moss on the north side of a lady.
Seems fair.
Oh, Lord.
Depends how long she's been at the bus stop.
There's types of moss that destroy other types of moss, but it takes, like, sort of, you know, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But if you were to watch it, you would see what is essentially a horrible war.
There's moss that destroys itself, like Kate Moss. Still, yeah. Well, this moss used to eat the rocks and it would create a chemical reaction with phosphorus, and which reacted with CO2, sucked it from the atmosphere. So it was a whole series of these reactions. And that used up almost all the oxygen, destroying life forms everywhere. It took about 35 million years for this process to work, and it was 470 million years ago.
We should keep an eye on moss now.
I think we should. Yeah.
It's an idea again to take over.
I've always had my suspicions about moss.
Have you? Bitching about liching. Now, from moss to moths. Why would you want to blow up a moth's penis? Really, the question should be, why wouldn't you?
You run out of balloons at a kids' children's party.
Blow it up, like destroy it, or...
Blow it up,
like with a foot
inflate it, yeah. Using...
Flotation device?
It takes a certain kind of person to invent something to increase the size of a moth's penis.
It certainly does.
It really does.
It takes an Australian. And it takes a device that they've invented
Oh, look
called...
at your lips round that, fella.
Yep. And it's
We're going to have to float downstream or we'll die.
And it's called the Fallow Blaster. And the Fallow Blaster is what pumps up the penis.
Come here,
of
little
a
fella.
moth.
I'm just going to increase the size of your penis.
Did we answer the why?
Yeah, why? Yeah, why?
I love
Why
the
has he
idea
done
that
this?
they blow up the penis and then let it go, and it goes...
Well, there are a lot of species of insect that are impossible to determine the actual species except by an inspection of the genitalia.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, some doctor said, it's the only way I could find out if it was a man, so I blew it, and now I know.
They used to be.
But otherwise, I wasn't sure. Leave me alone, Mary.
I thought moths were just butterflies from the 70s.
So, forward, the Fallow Blaster uses a stream of pressurised alcohol to fill and inflate the insect's penis. And if anyone knows about pressurised alcohol, it's an Australian.
I don't think that's a
Two streams of pressurised alcohol, please.
That's not a scientific experiment. That's an Australian stag do.
It basically is. When the alcohol evaporates, you see, it hardens the tissue, and then you're left with one much larger, hardened organ that...
This is the sort of thing you should put in a kit for a teenager.
How do they do this? Because the thing is...
Have we come on to the why yet as well?
Do they hold the moth and then do it? Because, you know, when you hold moths, the gold stuff comes off their wings and they can't fly anymore and have to walk home.
It explains why they're always trying to get to the moon, though.
Yeah.
I'd be out with you as
They've
well.
been told there's spare penises.
I've had enough of this, I'm off.
So, you said I'm off. It sounded like
Moth.
Like a very thoughtful moth.
Yeah, instead
I, moth,
I
do take the other moth.
I thought he was just talking Welsh. I'm off. Well, it's Cowan Lush, either way. So, I see I speak Welsh. Now, this man invented toilet vinegar. What other bright ideas did he have?
Waterproof fish and chips?
The triple beard.
Yes.
Is it Thomas Edison?
It's not Thomas Edison.
The light bulb?
No.
Bright idea, you see.
No, you're right. Very clever. That was brilliant.
Is it
smarter than
Jack
me?
Torch, inventor of the torch?
Is toilet vinegar something to do with cleaning?
It's toilet vinegar in the sense of toilet water. It's
Toilet
supposed to be. But in fact, it would work for cleaning. But if I told you his name, you might guess what he invented, which is in a related field. His name was Rimmel.
Oh, did he invent
makeup.
Particular kind?
the lipstick?
Not the lipstick, no.
The blusher?
Not the blusher.
Mascara?
Yes.
Oh.
Absolutely right.
Why
Mascara.
weren't things going off then? If I'd said things, it would all have gone off.
Finally, you worked out the pattern.
If you start guessing things, it goes off. That's how it works.
It's
Just
that
because she's a
chair.
girl.
She's a girl who knew the right answer.
There's an urban myth that mascara contains... Have you ever heard of
Dogs.
Strange sort of...
It's made of dogs. The French don't care. You know what they're like? They're cruel.
No, some people think it's made of bat guano.
Oh, my goodness.
But that's because it has guanine in it, and guanine is made from fish scales.
Robin, take that and make some mascara.
It looks like...
Please. Be proud of yourself.
Is bat guana poisonous?
Batman shit.
He was very much a perfumey sort of person. In plays in the Victorian era, as the curtain went up, there'd be a waft of perfume for each scene, different perfume, and he would be credited in the programme for perfume by Rimmel. And now it's time for us to leave the maelstrom of miscellany and move into the murky waters of general ignorance. Fingers on mushroomoids. After you die, what's the last bit of your body to stop beating?
The internal section of the clit.
You see, the foot.
It's known as the foot, Alan, in mountaineering circles.
The foothills of the cliffs.
Oh, is it the shadow?
Excuse me. Officially weird.
I was just imagining if you were lying in a coffin and your shadow was going, great, what am I going to do now? Could be someone else's shadow.
Do you know about the little pulsing, beating hairs we have in our body?
Oh, in
They're
your
tiny.
digestive system?
They're tiny. We have them all over the body. In the nose, not the nostril hairs, they're big, but they're tiny, tiny little...
Like moss.
They're called cilia.
What, the little
Cilia.
hairs in your nose?
Yeah.
No, not the visible ones.
I was going to say, I feel really guilty. I machined mine out this morning.
They collect mucus.
Microscopic little bulrushes there, and they beat in waves to pass things backwards and forwards. You can test if you put saccharin in your nose. I know that sounds suspicious.
You trying to get us into trouble? Or...
No, officer, I'm trying something. It's a QI thing.
Oh, no, the A40.
If you just dab saccharin on your nostrils, right, and wait, don't push it up or sniffle up or anything like that. Just wait until you can taste it in the back of the throat.
Right.
And that's the action of the cilia pulling it up.
Like tiny elves
Like
passing
tiny
to each
little
other.
So, yeah, they studied 100 cadaver scientists and found not only did the cilia keep moving for up to 20 hours, but the beat of them slowed down at a consistent pace, regardless of external factors like temperature and so on.
That's so sad.
It could help forensic investigators, though, work out on the
They
time
kept-
of death.
they
Yeah,
kept
they kept doing their
Come on,
job.
lads, keep going, you might come back.
Why are they doing it, then? Why would they continue doing it?
Because they weren't ready to let it go.
A lot of what they even transport molecules to the retina's light-sensitive cells. They're very amazing.
Quite
and
useful,
they help
aren't they?
propel sperm and waft eggs through the oviduct. That's one for you.
Just in case anyone who watched the programme didn't know that I had a clitoris, ovaries and a vulva. We've discussed mine this evening. Thank you.
Sure.
Shall I get my rainbow out?
Yes, please.
I've got a Ferris wheel on my cock, so don't worry too much.
We're both having a good time.
Everyone relax.
I waft my eggs over to your Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
I would say your matrimonial necessities have had a damn good airing this evening.
They didn't need it. They definitely didn't need it.
Well, that brings me to the matter of the scores and how fascinating they are. Actually, really fantastic, because way out in the lead with a magnificent +8 is Carrie-Anne Lloyd. In a superb second place with +4, Noel Fielding. And no disgrace to be on -7, Rod Gilbert. Pretty good for him. Minus 29, Alan Davis. Well, that's all from Carrie, Rod, Noel, Alan and me. And I leave you with this quote about mystery from Sir Arthur Eddington, the great physicist. Something unknown is... Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to QI, where tonight we're on parade for all things military. Here to do battle are the flag-waving Jimmy Carr, the sabre-rattling Sheila Hancock, the warmongering Jeremy Clarkson, and the ambulance-driving Alan Davies. Now their buzzers are suitably belligerent. Jimmy goes... Sheila goes... Jeremy goes... And Alan goes... Nice. What was unusual about Britain's war with Finland in 1941?
Well, not a shot was fired.
Oh!
No, it was the only time, I think, that two democracies have ever gone to war with one another.
That's a hell of an alarm.
Yeah.
Does it know what we're thinking?
Yes, definitely.
How did you know that?
Welcome to my world.
11 years ago, Jeremy Clarkson, you said on this very programme that the 1941 Anglo-Finnish War was the only one fought between two democracies.
Yeah. Well, have we declared war since the show started?
No, there had been others before. A viewer named Otto Lowe has written to us.
Otto?
Yeah, to point out that we were wrong, so we're retroactively taking points from you today. You had a slightly bad start to the year, but now it's got terrible. I'm really sorry.
It is 11 years ago, I mentioned.
There was the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War of 1780 to 1784, the Football War of 1969 between El Salvador and Honduras.
Football war?
The Football War.
How'd Honduras kicked a football into their...
It only lasted 10 hours, let's be said.
Was there a half-time?
There was a...
Well, I'll go back to my original answer then, which was not a shot was fired.
I'm afraid that's not true either. 13 people were killed in the Anglo-Finnish War. The British attacked a port called Petsamo on the 30th of July, 1941.
I still think it's the only proper war fought between two democracies.
Well, you know,
give in, Jeremy, give in. You should have gone home after the programme and looked it up, and then you'd have known.
I did look it up before I mentioned it 11 years ago.
Well, Wikipedia has got more accurate since then. But, the fact is, despite its reputation, the Anglo-Finnish War of 1941 is not the only time two democracies have fought each other. Now, if I can be serious for a moment, more than 100 million people were killed in wars during the 20th century, and the total number of people ever killed by wars could be as many as 1 billion. Einstein described war as a cloak that covers acts of murder, and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry called it a disease like typhus. With all that in mind, here is my question to you. Why did Hitler have such a silly moustache?
Thank God for that. I thought I was on the wrong show for a minute. Well, very serious.
I'm sure you'd agree with my description of war there, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely. This is a difficult show for me to be on because I'm a Quaker pacifist. So I'm not an ideal person.
Were you born a Quaker?
No, I wasn't. I was a Quaker by convincement, as they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And because my family, the Fry family, were very early Quakers.
Of course they were. Of course they were.
It's a very admirable thing, and the pacifism is taken very seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely thing until Hitler comes along, and then it's not much use.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it was...
Shaved his moustache
And I
off.
think the reason he had that moustache is he was probably a fan of Oliver Hardy.
Ah, well, it's certainly true that they were popular in the 20s and increasingly in the 30s, well, Charlie Chaplin,
Exactly.
of course, is best known. But supposedly Hitler changed from what was a relatively bushy moustache. You may have seen a famous photograph of him as a Gefreiter, a corporal in the First World War. There he is on the left. But there are a couple of stories. No one's quite sure which is true. There was a fellow who served with him, Alexander Moritz Frey, great-uncle Alexander. He was in the same regiment in the First World War as Hitler, and he said that Hitler trimmed it into the familiar toothbrush in order to fit into the gas mask properly.
Oh.
Frey's account is controversial, apparently. He went on to become a satirist and fantasy novelist, starting a family tradition.
Here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did kill Hitler.
I can't take that away from you, Jimmy.
Credit when credit is due.
That's true. Some historians believe that Hitler only adopted the tash in 1919, and his sister-in-law, who lived in Liverpool...
She had one as well.
She may have done. Do you know what her name was?
Muriel.
Almost, as it were.
Gauss Adolf.
Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah, that was her name. Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler?
Yeah. Yes, she was married to Alois Jr., who was Hitler's half-brother. And they had a son, William Patrick Hitler.
Billy Hitler.
William Patrick Hitler went to America and won a Purple Heart in the Navy.
Changed his name, I presume.
Eventually, to Stuart Houston, I think. And he claimed he wanted to forget anything to do with his uncle, but he named his first son Alexander Adolf Stuart Houston. Didn't really forget him that much.
In the American phone book, I know there's a weird fact, it's quite interesting, might work on this show, where there's still, I think, 9 people called Adolf Hitler.
Really?
That were obviously born before he came to...
Oh, watch it, because in 11 years they're going to ask you a question here.
You're simmering about that, aren't you?
I'm not a sore loser.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, Bridget, in her memoir, said that he came to visit Liverpool and that she told him that he should trim the ends of his moustache to make it less bushy. But, as she put it, as in most things, he went too far. That's put him in his place.
Hey, take it easy, Bridget.
Yeah, and speaking of things going a little bit too far, here's a question on mutinies. Everybody remembers the mutiny on the Bounty, but give me the name and rank of the man who was overthrown and cast adrift in an open boat.
Christian.
Fletcher Christian, wasn't he the one that... Is this just the BBC still getting at me?
You were about to correct Sheila, weren't you?
I was about to say, no, Fletcher Christian was the one who
mutineer.
did the mutinying, but Captain... Was he a captain and was he called Bligh?
He was called Bligh. He was called William Bligh, but he was a lieutenant commander.
I thought it was Marlon Brando.
Yeah, he was a commanding lieutenant on the Bounty, and there was a mutiny. And what was the mutiny about? What was the prime cause of it?
They couldn't get Netflix.
You'd think they
Was
could.
it a shuffleboard
They
incident?
could flick their
He
net
was
to
being
catch...
too strict. Bligh was being too strict.
Well, they'd been on Tahiti, where they'd enjoyed the hospitality of Tahitian women, and beautiful food and fabulous climate, and they just loved it so much. And Bligh insisted that they all get back on the boat to get back to their duties. Do you remember what the duties of the Bounty were?
They were collecting flowers or something. No, some food.
Yes, it's breadfruit.
Breadfruit, that's
Breadfruit, exactly, because they thought that may be the magical food for the British Navy. But they were really resentful at the idea that they had to get back to their duties, and they eventually cast him adrift in an open boat. And they gave him just a sextant and a pocket watch, and miraculously he made it all the way to Timor. It was a remarkable feat. But Bligh seems to have had problems commanding people because he was made governor of New South Wales quite a few years after the mutiny. And they mutinied. There was a military putsch to kick him out.
He obviously had the knack.
He had a bit of a knack.
So this guy had a knack of upsetting people he worked with?
Yeah.
What?
Pompey. Yes, other mutinies. Describe the mutiny of the monkeys.
Mutiny of the monkeys?
Seems to be one in the middle is going to an England match.
Peter Talk had had enough.
Peter, the monkeys, very good.
See what I did there?
There, I do see what you did there.
He wanted to go on the hat, and the one who always had the hat wouldn't let him have the hat. Anyway, the gig was cancelled.
The one that had the hat.
Mickey Dolenz.
His mum invented post-it notes.
Yes, which came about because they were bad stickers.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were actually a failure because they didn't stick properly, and then they thought, hang on a minute.
They should have
This
used
might
super
happen.
glue, because that never sticks anything to anything.
I've lost the thread of this conversation.
You may not be alone, Chief. Somehow they were talking about, you see, the question was Mutiny of the Monkeys,
They were
showed
talking about
pictures
the
of
pop
monkeys.
group.
They were talking about the pop
I
group.
was there with that.
One of them, who's the one who wear the hat? Mike Naismith? His mother invented post-it notes for three...
Or was it
Tipex?
Tipex?
It was, in fact, Tipex.
Was it Tipex?
Yeah,
Tipex.
but...
Oh.
Yeah.
Still a good super
Oh, well,
glue.
you got a free post-it note fact, anyway.
Yeah, that's very true.
For nothing.
So, no, we're in the world of primates here. We're actual monkeys.
Mutiny of the Monkey.
Well, it was called the Monkey Mutiny. It was in 1890. It was a British vessel called the Margaret, which travelled from Durban to Boston, and it contained a consignment of 400 cockatoos, 12 snakes, 2 crocodiles, some monkeys, a gorilla, and an orangutan to be delivered to an American zoo. Almost immediately, things started to go wrong.
I think I've seen a documentary about this. Is it called The Life of Pi?
More or less, yes.
I mean, sorry, that actually
adding the
happened?
tiger, yes.
So, go on, what kicked off? So they're on a
Well,
boat...
the rats ate the grain, which was intended for the cockatoos, so they all died.
The cockatoos.
400 cockatoos dead.
Food for the crocodiles.
There was there was a storm. The snake and the crocodiles escaped, so the crew barricaded themselves into their cabins and wouldn't go out. But then, fortunately, the crocodiles and the snake basically fought each other until there was only one crocodile left. And eventually, some cargo fell on it and it was killed. So the crew could then come out.
And they all got new shoes.
Yes. Then the monkeys escaped and climbed the rigging. And then they were swept off to sea and drowned.
Where were the human beings while all this
Well,
was happening?
they'd hidden themselves in their
Shitting
cabin for a
themselves.
lot of it. They were scared. But by the time they did get to Boston, there was a gorilla, 3 monkeys and 4 parrots left out of that whole consignment.
That is why Boston Zoo
Yeah.
is shit.
Good survivor's photo, there.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so a mob of monkeys caused a mutiny on the Margaret. What's a better way to get out of the army than shooting yourself in the foot?
Putting your underpants on your head and pencils up your nostrils.
Remember to say a bibble. I must say it. Bibble.
Are we talking about now or in history?
First World War.
To say you were homosexual?
Well, yeah.
You know, after the war, there was the conscription. The
Yeah.
war was over.
Oh, for national
And you
service.
had national service,
Yeah.
and I know 1 or 2 actors who pretended they were gay to get out of doing conscription.
I've known more actors who pretended they were straight, but there we are. Yes. No, well, you're right to be in the area of sexual behaviour, shall we say? Because there was this idea of a blighty wound, where in the First World War you'd shoot yourself through the foot in order to be invalided.
Chop your cock
out.
off.
Well, any of those, if you were discovered doing them, would be a shootable offence. It was considered desertion.
Cheese grated off.
So, sorry, if... Oh! Hey, if you haven't tried it, don't judge. Sorry, so did people really shoot themselves in the foot then? Did that happen a lot?
Not a lot, because they would just be accused of cowardice and desertion. So there was another way.
Running away.
Fraternised?
Well, fraternising in a very particular kind of fraternising.
Pursuing an officer.
You do get leave, even in Flanders.
Sex change.
Sorry?
Ah.
Oh, you don't have to go that drastic.
Bestiality.
Necrophilia.
No, that would be all right.
No! Look, come on, you're on leave. You go to Rouen, Le Havre.
So, sexually transmitted
Brothel,
disease.
going to
Yes!
brothel.
Sexually
Brothel.
transmitted disease. You go to a brothel. Yeah.
What did you have to get in a brothel?
Well,
to get
venereal
out?
disease was usually it was the pox or the clap. It was
Gonorrhea.
syphilis or gonorrhea.
Oh, yeah.
And you were 5 times more likely to have venereal disease than you were trench foot.
on the front.
Well, then why didn't... Forgive me for asking that. Why didn't everybody simply go to a brothel in the hope that they could get a dose?
They just about did. That's my point. That's how they tried to get out.
that would
of
be
it.
tremendous.
Well, the thing was, it was quite well treated, and there didn't seem to be a very utterly terminal or terrible form of venereal disease, so you would get you a few months off, but that was something for that war.
But then you could go home and see the wife. Literally, all right, love, nice to see you, but we've got to rest this up.
There were 75,000 prostitutes in Paris alone, less than 10% of whom were licensed. According to one contemporary report, 171,000 British troops visited brothels in a single street in Le Havre in just 1 year.
Makes you proud, doesn't it?
Yeah. During the German occupation, it was an offence for a prostitute to give a German soldier a venereal disease, and the offending woman could be imprisoned to keep other men safe. But as soon as they started retreating towards the end of the war, they released all the women with venereal disease in the hope that the pursuing enemy would catch the clap.
I mean...
There it is.
It really were marvellous times, weren't they?
War is such fun.
Isn't it?
Such
Robert
good...
Graves, who wrote probably the best memoir of the First World War, Goodbye to All That, the poet, he said there were no restraints in France. These boys had money to spend and knew that they stood a good chance of being killed within a few weeks anyhow. They did not want to die virgins. And that kind of says all of it. Oh, dear. So, yes...
I was told this show would be fun. It's fun.
Well,
it's
catching the syphilis is fun. It's all the rest of it.
It's proving your point about war. Yes, soldiers in World War I could get off by getting off. Which of these was originally used for military purposes?
The bumper car.
Not the bumper car, in fact.
The Ferris wheel.
Not the Ferris wheel.
The merry-go-round.
that thing that goes round
No,
for
the other one.
seasickness.
Well, there we are. That's one. We've all gone for something different.
That's rather pleasing. And the only one that's correct is the merry-go-round, which was originally used for that purpose of war training. You'd sit on the horse, and a servant would have a ring, and you'd have a lance, and you'd go round and round, and you'd try and get your lance through the ring to practice your accuracy.
I mean, surely bullshit. No? That's what America was invented to...
A carousel, it was called a carosello, and that was...
So they're originally like, sort of like a tennis ball machine?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Call of Duty's better, isn't it, really?
But while we're on the subject of fairgrounds, there'd been a particular problem in the Boer War, where they'd noticed that the British were not very good at aiming and firing rifles. So they passed special laws...
One of the basics, really, isn't it?
Yeah. They passed special laws that allowed fairgrounds to have rifle ranges, so you could fire rifles, live ammunition.
Sorry, there's live ammunition in the fairground?
Yes. Have you never gone to one of those?
I've gone to one of those, but it's always like a little...
Just a pellet?
Yeah, a pellet.
I mean, mostly you get the pellets, but what is allowed in law, even to this day, is live, actual ammunition, proper ammunition.
In a fairground?
Yeah.
Really? Gosh.
Wow.
Well, really?
Yeah, really.
What, a 7.62 millimetre...
Up to .23.
It is frowned upon if you bring your own gun.
I was going to say...
I want to make it absolutely clear for Jeremy.
AK, I'd get all those balloons.
But 2-2 would work, so you could have
It
that.
would be quite good to turn up at a fairground
With your own.
with an AK-47 and go, he'll be taking that bear home. Someone needs a cuddle.
Have you ever fired an AK-47?
Not in anger, Jeremy.
No, somebody put it onto automatic and quite literally stood me in front of a barn door and I missed it.
Is that... It
And we all would. It
Of
just
course,
rides
there's a
around
recoil.
like a mad
Of course, the
thing.
man that did that isn't here to tell the story. Very unfortunate incident.
It never breaks down and it never hits anything.
And what, it just flies...
It just does that and then rushes about in your hands. Terribly dangerous most...
Well, that explains all of the series of the A-Team.
Yes.
So it is actually realistic, the idea that, you know, no one got shot ever.
Nobody could possibly get shot with an AK. Not unless they weren't aiming at them. If I aimed at you, most of the audience would be history.
Well, that's you, not everybody. I mean, if
No,
they
it's
knew
pretty-
how to handle it.
No, it's pretty much everybody. Unless you're a burly Russian shot put enthusiast, then you could probably hold on to it, but I couldn't.
I fired a machine gun in Vietnam.
Really? Did you?
Did you hit anything?
I hit the end of the field.
A field's
But they
reasonable.
got all these old weapons from the American War, and you go up and you buy bullets. How many bullets do you want?
Oh, my
I think I
goodness.
bought 10 bullets. And they put it in, and then you squeeze the trigger, they're gone. You think, I wish I had more.
That's
the evil of guns, isn't it? It does something.
Sheila, you're a Quaker pacifist. Have you got any good gun stories?
Oh, dear.
It'd be so good, though, if you went, yeah. Has anyone ever had a go on a bazooka?
Well, that was what we
go
were
on
told,
one.
that you could bazooka cows and things, but I didn't get the chance to do that.
You're a vegetarian!
We had a...
You see, this is what guns do, isn't it?
Vegetarian of the year.
The other thing that I heard about was that they used cattle. I know that was a stand-up routine I did. That's not true.
You're beginning to blur the lines.
It's close to something when I'm struggling to remember a fact, and it's actually something I made up myself.
Anyway, one important skill for a soldier is map reading. But why are maps so difficult to fold?
Well, because now they're on your phone, so you've got to break it.
Well, we've got some ones that aren't on the phone.
My father was a navigator in rallying. And
Was he?
He could phone one in the passenger seat of a Mini Cooper at dark at night.
Did he pass that skill on?
This is torture, you know.
And so whenever I tried to phone him back, he just
Genuinely, this is my idea of hell.
Of hell, yeah.
It is hell.
That's right, because
there are severe problems.
Yeah.
there they are.
I mean, I tell you, probably the best idea is not to unfold it in the first place, Steve.
Impressive.
So anything with maps, my father was a navigator. And I know what all the symbols
Sheila,
mean.
we've missed our turn. Oh, concentrate.
Right, I'll race you.
Now, yes.
Oh, well, she's
Sort of doing what I do there, I think.
My car is just full of those.
Pyongyang. Pyongyang.
Haven't you got a sat-nav?
Where would we be without sat-nav?
Hey!
Not
Probably at those studios, I don't know.
Come on, everyone, make an effort.
The fact is, most maps have got 9 folds one way and 2 the other, which means that there are 2,048 different ways of folding them. Two to the power of 11. A man called Mura, who's an aeronautical designer, was doing solar panel foldings, and he came up with this way of doing it. And all you have to do is that, and it folds. You just push the corners together, and it doesn't matter what you do.
I bet you
And what's more, it doesn't get.
wouldn't
It doesn't
work.
get. Sorry.
It wouldn't work if you gave it to me.
Stephen, did you...
Well, I'll give you one.
The one that you've got there, is that a map of Mars?
You've got one there. So, and you just take the top
you
right
just
and bottom
push
left corners, or any other way.
That way?
It's so folded, it just
Take
does
the corners
it by
and push them
itself.
together.
Oh, my God.
That's it. Jeremy, you've done it.
But this man is the greatest genius who
Isn't
ever
he?
lived.
I know. It's fantastic.
Who is he?
He's called Mura. He's a... God.
Of course, what you don't realise, he was trying to make a crane.
Koryo Mura, his name is, and they are very
I
handy.
would have been so fucking pleased if I...
Well, there are other things you can do with folding. I've got some tissues here, and...
What are we doing now?
Are you gonna... I'll give you each a tissue. All right, so pass...
OK.
There we are. Pass down. Oops.
What are we doing with the tissue?
I'll have one here.
OK, so what are we up to?
What you're trying to do is scrunch it up.
Oh, yeah, OK.
Like this in your hands.
Yep.
You scrunch it up. And then...
Stick it right up your bum.
No. You then bounce it up. You try and think of an animal. Don't think of an animal. Like, I'm thinking of an animal. I'm thinking of a sort of swan or something like
I've
that.
really scrunched mine up.
I'm thinking of a swan, you see?
Yeah.
Like that. Can you see my swan?
Do I have to think of a swan?
There you are. Have you not managed that? There we are.
Tiger, I've got tiger.
I've got absolutely nothing at all.
Oh, well. I thought of a badger, but he got run over.
Excellent. Well done all. Now, an army is said to march on its stomach, but what's the most morale-boosting thing you can find in a meat pie?
Cocaine?
Whoa.
Well, motivation-wise, it would do wonders, wouldn't it?
People.
Greg's steak bake.
People.
Yes, people.
People in pies.
People in pies. I'll tell you the story behind it, and you might think that there probably was never quite such a morale-boosting pie. It was Philip the Good. And Philip the Good was the ruler of Burgundy. And in 1356, probably, I wouldn't be surprised, 1454,
Good save.
he held a feast for knights and squires and pages and lords and so on. It was a PR stunt to promote a crusade that he wanted to hold against the Turks, and they'd taken Constantinople. Anyway, he had a feast. It was called the Feast of the Pheasant. And it included a meat pie which contained 28 musicians. Yeah.
Alive?
Who played throughout the meal. It's alive. It's a vast pie. Mannequin piss, which was urinating rosewater. A castle that squirted orange punch into its moat. And a lion chained to a pillar. That protected a statue of a nude woman who served mulled wine from her right breast.
Is that a party at Elton John's house?
But, well, in this case, after this enormous pie, a giant came on with an elephant on a leash. The elephant had a castle on its back, and the castle had a dishevelled nun whose hands were held in prayer, and she implored Philip to go on a crusade to save Constantinople.
A dishevelled nun?
Apparently dishevelled. He immediately leapt to his feet, made an oath to retake the city, and all his guests, caught up in the excitement of the pie, which had so boosted their morale, that they said they would go on the crusade too.
And that's why it's always a good idea to invade the Middle East.
Well, actually, they were very fortunate, because they didn't go on their crusade, despite the morale-boosting pie.
They didn't go?
No, they didn't, because Charles VII of France, who was the king, said that he thought it was a terrible idea. So they had the pie for nothing.
I'm fascinated by this dishevelled nun.
Yes. Well, the word dishevelled is used in Chaucer, you may remember. And
I don't remember, Stephen.
No, fine, don't worry.
Did you know him at all, Sheila?
No.
He uses the word hevelled.
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 Oh, so
the man's head is cleanly hevelled. It means so. Dishevelled means uncombed. So the nun was uncombed, it seems. Though it's often used of clothes as well now. Yeah, Philip the Good. He certainly knew how to throw a good party. What's the worst thing you can find in a Morrison sandwich?
Well, Morrison was food minister during the war.
Herbert. Got straight to it.
He was in charge of sandwiches, was he?
No, well, he was in fact in charge of home defence. And he came up...
no one got in and took him.
Home Guard? Dad's army.
Not the Home Guard exactly, but he came up with a home defence idea, which was a type of shelter. It was for the more deprived families. And it was, they were given...
It was indoors.
They were given free. It was indoors.
Indoors as opposed to the Anderson shelter, which was outside.
Exactly
which
right.
I spent my life in. And a dear friend of mine was in one of those, and her house took a direct hit, and she survived.
Yes. One of the things we wanted to say is that it was actually not, as it might seem, a rather unsafe contrivance, but it actually worked really, really well, it seems.
Yeah.
But there was one problem. Sometimes the top bit, which was solid metal, and the bottom was solid metal, sometimes the top bit just crashed down and the person was caught in what was then called a Morrison sandwich.
Yeah. Wow. Oh,
but it was considered safer, and it was also quite loved, unlike the Anderson shelter, which is pretty hated, is that right?
Well, I quite liked it, actually. You used to be outside and you could watch, you always had binoculars, and you could watch the dogfights going on, you know, in the Battle of Britain, and you felt kind of safe down there. The only thing was that you were frightened that you'd be trapped in the shelter. I sleep with my hand over my head because there was an escape hatch at the back of the Anderson shelter with a spanner that you would use to get out. And I used to sleep like that on my bunk. And I still do. I sleep with one hand over the hand.
You could probably sleep somewhere else.
There's
now,
one on the right. And this one on the left. It's the one on the left. It's actually a weight test. It's being tested for how much it can take. And as you can see, it's a fair amount of weight.
There was one in my uncle's garden, I remember.
There was one, an Anderson shelter.
There's one on my farm, and it's just full of pornography.
What is?
Pornography?
It's just full of Men Only, Mayfair, all from the 70s.
Is that where you keep your collection? Yeah. That used to be a thing, though, didn't it? They used to, whenever you would walk through Woodland, I remember that as a teenage boy, there would always just be pornography lying around. Sort of in the days before the internet, there was just porn lying about in the woods.
You always find something in the head.
Does anyone else remember that? Is that just me? used to walk through the woods and there would be porn lying about.
All everywhere. I was never able to get to the sweet shop without encountering pornography.
Well, this is very odd. Why in the woods? Why in the
I think
woods?
that's when possibly people went and bought some pornography and thought, well, I better not bring that home.
And then they drive home and leave a single shoe in the central reservation, which is the other thing.
Yes.
And unravel their cassette tape. That's everything done now for the day. Cassette tape, single shoe, strong pornography in the wood.
Well,
What a strange world you live in.
so... Anyway, yes, Morrison's sandwiches, as opposed to Morrison sandwiches, which were people caught there. There's a Morrison sandwich, and of course they're delightful and fresh and charming, and I wouldn't want to suggest anything about them that was unpleasant. Of course.
You've never had one in your life, have you?
No, but... I know they exist. So, yes, Morrison sandwiches could be deadly, but Morrison's sandwiches are, of course, delicious. How do all female military battles differ from all male ones?
They'll tidy up afterwards.
That's so sweet.
Female battles?
Well, yes, the fact is I don't think humans have ever had an all-female war.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
The Amazons are supposedly female soldiers, but they fought men.
The reason there's never been an all-female war is because there's plenty of me to go round, I think.
They've not had to butt out. Oh, looks. Yeah, so we're not talking about human beings in that case.
Oh.
Oh, an animal war.
Animal war conducted purely by females of that species.
Is it the praying mantis?
Not mosquitoes, but you're the right...
Rabbits.
No, you're right with insects. Bees.
Bees went to war.
Yeah, bees war on other hives and other colonies.
Lady bees?
Yes, Australian stingless bees.
But the queen bee?
The queen is the one who doesn't fight, but all the other females who are sterile...
Are there other female
Oh, yes,
bees?
there are, but they're sterile. And they launch a turf war against another colony. And the main attack method is to bite the leg or wing. But because they have 6 legs, they can keep going until, you know, they've got no legs left. They really fight
These are
gruesomely.
not British bees.
No, they're Australian stingless bees.
right.
Yeah.
British bees would know better, wouldn't
Yes, exactly.
Australian
At home
bees.
making honey.
British lady bees, exactly.
British
do
bees
such a
wouldn't
thing.
bite legs off.
Yeah. So, when the victory...
Some weird animals in Australia.
There are. And the colony that wins, they install their queen and they kick out all the others who are left to die because they can't survive unless they're in a colony.
Oh, charming.
Yeah, it's all rather grim. In Scouting for Boys...
Sorry, your hobby?
It is a strange title. It is, of course, by the founder of the Scout movement, the Scouting movement,
Baden-Powell.
Baden-Powell. What does one think of a man who can say something like this? He said of bees that they're quite a model community, for they respect their queen and kill their unemployed.
Oh.
Hello?
Did he say that?
Yes. Now, what begins with M that you could shoot with one of these?
Those guys are tiny.
A mallard.
Mallard is very good. Absolutely recognise what that is.
It's a punt gun.
It is indeed a punt gun.
There's a few punters in.
You're good old guns, aren't you, Jeremy?
I shot one of those, but I shot a clay pigeon with it. And proved that a man can actually fly.
So you don't tell me you weren't on a punt. You
No,
were...
I wasn't on a punt. And there's a sort of momentum thing goes, and you get it going, and then you just can't stop it. And I was airborne for 20 minutes.
That's one of the reasons they had them on punts. Is...
I mean, the boat goes backwards.
That's the point.
You could fire that in Norfolk, and you would wind up in Stavanger 3 weeks later.
Well, that's true. But also, more distressingly, perhaps, if you like, waterfowl, one shot can destroy up to 50 at a time. So you're going to have...
So is it shot like a shotgun?
Yeah, it's just huge amount of blast.
But, I mean, I know you're a vegetalist, and which is fine, but what I don't understand about these is that if you actually hit a duck, it vaporised it. And apart from licking the lake or the grass, there's no nutritional value from an atomised egg.
You're pretty much right.
Seriously, why do they have such a great big gun for it?
Well, it was used in the United States of America, of course, in the early part of the 19th century. But even the Americans realised they were going to deplete their waterways just too much, so by 1860 it was banned. You couldn't use it.
And then they use hand grenades now.
Yes, do.
I got picked up, this is another gun story, and I apologise, Sheila, but I got picked up by a man once at an airport in Phoenix, and he was a big noise in the NRA, and we had very little in common. And he drove along in complete silence, and he just turned to me after about 10 minutes and went, "What is your personal preference of firearm?" Was it small talk? That was small talk. I don't really have
And you
one,
said
mate.
punk gun.
Punk gun, mate. Yeah, so
I tried that earlier with Sheila. We didn't really hit it off.
I almost want to go to a rifle range with you to see you with one of these guns. You're obviously hopeless at it.
The punt gun was used to massacre mallards, Muscovy ducks, mergansers and other mother duckers. From ducks to drakes, what was the name of the fleet of ships that got its arse kicked in 1589 during the Anglo-Spanish War?
The Spanish Armada.
Taking one for the team there.
I knew that would...
Yeah, that was 1588.
89.
The Spanish Armada.
Year.
The next year.
They came back another go.
No, this is what's so interesting. This is the English Armada. And what's interesting is that we just don't teach this in schools, but it's a far worse defeat on
Was
the
this
English...
Cadiz?
No, Cadiz was singeing the King of Spain's beard, as it was called.
Yes.
It was a success.
Cadiz
Wasn't
Cadiz is pronounced Cardiff, by the way.
Cadiz.
If you say Cardiff, you're much closer to
Cardiff.
the way the Spanish say it, as I've found out.
Oh, really?
Just say Cardiff, and they go, oh,
That way. You walk to
you
it.
say Cadiz, they go, eh?
But anyway, it's
Was
nothing
it
to do
the
with
one
Cadiz.
where we went and did too long?
No, what's interesting about this is that the English had a plan, having seen off the Spanish Armada. Drake, filled with confidence, thought they would really defeat Philip II of Spain and we would really finish the job. Instead of which, we lost 40 ships, and it was an utter disaster. But they don't teach it in English schools. The Spanish Armada that is taught a lot and we celebrate was not really that much of a triumph, to be honest. We didn't sink their ships in the Great Battle. The fire ships that Drake's invented to send into them didn't destroy any Spanish shipping. So it was just not really that great a triumph.
It was the wind that beat them, not really Drake. But what was the... I've forgotten what the question was about 1589.
Yeah, what was the name of the fleet of ships that got its arse kicked?
Oh, it's the name of the fleet of ships, I don't know.
It was the English Armada.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And it's...
Yeah, well, I don't want to learn about that.
No.
I learned about HMS Victory. And they used 60,000 trees to make HMS Victory. And they would grow oak trees, and when they were saplings, they would tie ropes around them so that branches would grow into bends, because they needed, actually, to make the hulls and the keel, you needed oak in that shape. So that actually the growing of the oak was an extraordinary...
Amazing, isn't it?
Extraordinary expertise went into it.
Yeah, the year after the Spanish Armada, an English Armada was soundly beaten by Spain. We don't really like to talk about it. That was something that people are generally ignorant about, and here are some more. Fingers on buzzers, if you please. I'll give you 100 points if you can name one of the countries where either the first or last shots of the First World War were fired.
Well...
It's worth it for 100 points.
France.
England.
It's where that guy, the king, the man was
Austria,
shot in the carriage.
Turkey.
Where was that?
Well, that first shot in Sarajevo
Bosnia.
was not a
Sarajevo.
shot of the war. It's what caused the war a month or so later.
You mean soldiers?
But once the war was underway, the first shot that was actually fired in it...
The Isle of Man.
Denmark.
Jersey.
No, I'll tell you, it was Togoland.
That was the next thing I was going to say.
Where's Togoland?
Next to Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's now called Togo, but it was called Togoland then.
It's in the Pacific,
isn't it? Somewhere a long way away.
No, it's maybe thinking of Tonga or something there. This is
yeah,
Africa.
okay.
It was a German colony. And on the 4th of August 1914, the British Empire declared war on Germany, and 3 days later it attacked Togoland, Germany's small but strategic colony there.
Is that Namibia way then?
No, it's a bit much further up, near the Gold Coast and that sort of area. And Regimental Sergeant Major Alhaji Grunshi was the first to shoot back when the German-led police force shot the approaching British forces.
He was obviously better at it than Jeremy.
Yeah. So he
Did
became...
he actually hear anything?
He didn't necessarily hit anybody,
I've
but
never hit a
he
thing.
became the first member of the British Army to fire a shot in the war.
Because I'd be the perfect armed guard for a Quaker meeting.
You would. I'm loving everything that you're so bad with.
Have you missed again? Yes, I have.
But the war also ended in Africa, in fact. The last actual battle took place on a golf course in northern Rhodesia, which is now called Zambia. They stopped fighting eventually, but German troops fought on for ages in what is now Tanzania, Tanganyika as it was, and they surrendered on November the 25th,
If you shoot
1918.
someone on a golf course, is it considered polite to shout "for"? You would think it would be the least you could do.
Probably. So, yes, 14 days after the armistice was the last shot of the war that anybody can find, which was in Tanganyika. So, yeah, the first shots of World War I were fired in Togo, the last in Tanganyika. And finally, our last question, what happened to the last of the Mohicans?
Get a haircut.
Wild West show?
Well, what is a Mohican?
A hairstyle.
Well, aside from a hairstyle, yes.
Well, it's an
American
Indian.
tribe, is it?
Oh,
Well-
God, no way.
Say what?
I've gone and trodden on one of those landmines. Because you can't say Indian, can you? What do I say? Native American.
Native American.
Actually, you can say Indian. I found doing a documentary all over the reservation.
I can say it.
They called each other Indians.
I nearly got fired for that one.
AIM is the... The American Indian Movement is the premier political body fighting for the rights of American Indians, and they call themselves the American Indian Movement, AIM.
It's a whole new world since I left.
There are two sets of Native Americans, American Indians, that have been known as Mohicans. They're the Mohegans, who live in Connecticut and run the Casino of the Sky.
Yeah, are they the Mohegan Sun Casino? I've been there.
It's called Mohegan, is it?
Mohegan, yeah.
And then the Mohicans, or Mohicans, also provide a gambling service for you at the North Star Mohican Resort in Wisconsin, known as the Midwest's friendliest casino. Yeah.
The guy on the right there is rubbish. The worst Native American ever. He doesn't join in, does he?
He's going... No one told me we were supposed to dress as Indians. I look ridiculous.
So the Mohican hairstyle, which you've alluded to, is only called that in Britain. What do they call it in America?
Ridiculous.
They call it Mohawk. Not Mohican.
Mohawk.
Yeah. But actually, neither Mohicans, either the Mohegan or the Mohegan, whichever one you choose, have their hair like that, nor do Mohawks have their hair like that. It's the Pawnees who have their hair cut like that, but for some reason, Mohawk and Mohican is there. So, we haven't seen the last of the Mohicans. They're still coining it in their casinos. Ka-ching, ka-ching, chingo, ka-choo, 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 ching, ching. As Neville Chamberlain said, in war, no matter which side may call itself the victor, there are no winners, all are losers. And so it is with QI. But let's see who is the least losing of them all. Lord, oh, bless my blimey. Well, I have to say, it's a fantastic score for a first-time performance. Wow! Look at that. Quaking away at -2 is Sheila Hancock. In second place, with -8, it's Jimmy Carr. -8 is good. In third place, going great guns, it's Jeremy. -13. And only just last is Alan on -14. That's all from Sheila, Jimmy, Jeremy, Alan and me, and I leave you with this deep thought of American humorist Jack Handy. I can picture in my mind a world without war, a world without hate, and I can picture us attacking that world because they'd never expect it. And welcome to QI, which tonight is a mélange of M places. Joining me on my metropolitan meander are the eminent Sue Perkins. The empowered Sammy Shah. The emphatic David Mitchell. And the frankly embarrassing Alan Davies. Their buzzers celebrate some of the most magnificent M's on the map. Sue goes... When I was walking in Memphis... Sammy goes... I'm going to Miami.
time goes... Oh, don't you like that? Oh. Don't you like that? Oh, try again.
Oh.
Hate Man United! We only hate Man United!
So, which of the following M places is made up? There they are. Misak Setafet, the Mountains of Kong, Made Up Arura, Merv. Yes, Sammy.
I'm going to say Made Up Arura only because it has made up literally in its name.
There's a logic there, and you're new to QI, and I'd like to be merciful, but I'm not going to.
All right, fair enough.
But in a sense, all names are made up, aren't they?
To the logically ruthless world of David Dixon. You sound like that, I'm sorry. But of course you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But which one is not existing? But we have...
The Mountains of Kong sounds like it's from fiction.
That sounds totally made up. Mountains of Kong?
You're right. You're
Sounds
right.
like-
Though it was made up in a way that was utterly convincing for 100 years.
It's not like something from Flash Gordon or something like that.
No, it's earlier than that. It was a cartographer who was a highly respected figure who was just imagining them. It was a chain of mountains all the way across Africa, below the Sahara and before what you might call darkest Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, as we'd now say. And this, right up to 1895, this was in atlases. He was called James Rennell, and he was a very respected figure. And he...
Until someone went skiing in the mountains of Kong.
Well, the effect of it was that
Should be here somewhere.
The effect of it was that nobody dreamt or thought of passing this barrier and going through to the rest of Africa.
Yeah.
They had obviously navigated the coast. There was the slave routes, which were all the way further down, but everyone thought that from the north you couldn't get through.
What did he do? Spill something on the map?
That's quite possible.
Bollocks. I'll call it the Mountains of Kong.
But who gets to name? Who gets the honour of naming a thing? If you chance upon it, can you call it?
Yeah.
Kong Mountains or
Or you
Jimmy
name it
Hill
in the
or,
case of
you know.
David Livingstone, you call it Lake Victoria,
In honour
after your dear Queen and all that sort of thing.
It's difficult to name it after yourself, isn't it?
Yeah,
you have
it
to
is.
name it after someone and say the thing to do as an explorer would be to get there and then ask your assistant explorer if they can think of a name. While reminding them how they got that job.
Yes. Oh, no, me, really? Oh, you can't be, yes. Well, he called somewhere Blantyre, for example, which is where he was born in Scotland, Livingston. But you do run out, don't you? It's a bit like the naming of waifs and strays, orphan children, at the Foundling Hospital in London. It's a rather wonderful place to visit. And there's a plaque with names of all these children who turned up, who were orphans, or babies mostly, left by their mothers. And after a while, the committee for naming them just got bored. And so Josiah Table, Charlotte Sky. I mean, it's just awful. They just say, oh, I can't be arsed.
John Thing.
Yes.
John Thing the second.
Other thing.
Yeah.
Brenda couldn't give a toss.
402.
But Made Up Arura exists in the Maldives. It's an island in the Ra Atoll.
Well, it won't exist for long, then.
Because it's very low.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Couple more coal-fired power stations and it'll be Made Up Arura again.
What about Messac Setafet?
It's a fine tennis player.
Is it in Egypt?
Not actually in Egypt, but not so
Shropshire.
million miles away. It's in the Sahara, is what I'm trying to say. It's in the Sahara, and it is known as containing more tools than any other place on Earth.
Apart from Made in Chelsea.
Insert city.
You may think, oh, a lot of tools. Well, that's not very interesting. But 75 artefacts per square metre. It's almost 200 million per square mile. This is a staggering amount of man-made.
These things like hand axes.
Yes.
That sort of old.
Yeah, all those
tools.
kind of things. Over 100,000 years or so. Local sandstone was ideal.
Is that Saharan language, whatever it is, for home base. Or...
It was the right kind of
Clay
rock.
tools are up.
They bought a lot of flint the day before the strimmer was invented.
Yeah.
According to Dr. Robert Foley of Cambridge University, the rock extracted from Africa by humans to make tools over the last 1,000,000 years will be enough to build 3 great pyramids of Giza for every square mile of the entire continent, which is one way of expressing that there were a lot of them.
There was a lot more Africa before early man turned it into tools.
Well, it's still there. No, it's still in Africa. It's just now loose.
No, most of it's in museums. Pyramids
Yeah.
are in museums and in a big heap in Messac Setafet. But there must have been... Probably the mountains of Kong were there.
They just made tools.
Very good indeed. So, Merv. Where's Merv? Where was Merv? Where is Merv? Where could
Usually
Merv be?
fielding on the boundary.
So you're talking about Merv Hughes, Merv the Swerve. No, it's not that. It genuinely was a place.
Where's Merv? I don't know.
Well, it was a city.
Is it Merv? The earliest city is supposed to be Ur, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just... They're like, what should we name it?
Exactly.
Sounds good to me, yeah.
It's like the first stage of sophistication beyond Ur. You know, you've got and E. And then you need then Merv.
But Merv was on the legendary Silk Road, the great trading route.
Oh,
so China...
Between China
and
and India and Pakistan.
Exactly. Through your...
through my neck of the woods, if you will.
Exactly.
Good old Merv used to go there for chai. And... There's a guy there who makes an amazing naan. And,
Is it like Knutsford? Like a services? I think naan... Lovely.
Yeah.
But surely, chai is disgusting.
Oh,
chai is tea.
It's
Isn't
hot, sweet, milky.
It's only your fault we have that. Like, that's not...
Have you ever
There was chai before the British came.
I'll have some chai, please, but without sugar.
Why would you ask without sugar? That's genuinely an insult, which is, it's punishable.
Uh-oh. I'd rather not get type 2
Stephen has only been here 10 minutes.
If you don't if you can't commit to type 2 diabetes, then you shouldn't have chai in the first place.
I've learned that.
Fair enough.
Painfully. Let's get back to Merv. Major oasis. It was arguably the largest city in the world, had a population of 200,000 people. This is, we're going back from 1150s to 1200, that sort of thing.
A bit quieter now, though, by the look of it.
Well, yes.
Just a man...
Ever since they built the railway.
Since they built the freeway.
That's what happened when they built the bypass.
The bottom fell out of the market for green stuff.
Probably cat.
Used to it.
But it all sounds a bit George R.R. Martin, actually, because it changed hands between the Khwarezmians of Khiva, the Guz and the Gurids.
And the Dothraki.
Yeah. And the Dothraki, In 1221, they surrendered to the Mongols, which was a big mistake.
Didn't everyone surrender to the Mongols around then?
I don't think surrendering was the right word, though. They didn't have a choice in the matter as
Not
such.
really, and the result was they were all massacred, every one of them killed.
Yeah.
Disaster.
The Mongols didn't
except for that
understand the
person.
basics, did they?
Yeah, the Mongols were not kind or polite.
Yeah.
We'll
Bad
come-
Mongols.
We might come to them later, who knows. But the closest modern city to Merv is in Turkmenistan, and it's called Mary.
I like
It's a
that.
city called Mary.
Merv and Mary.
Why do you think it's called Mary?
Why is it called Mary? Oh, because Catholic missionaries, or...?
No, it's because they believe that's where the mother of Jesus was buried.
Why would the mother of Jesus have gone quite such a long way to be buried?
It's a long way from Nazareth.
Because she wasn't as much of a celebrity then as she subsequently... I mean, nowadays it'd be no problem for her to sort it out. You could get a sponsorship deal, Richard Branson would happily helicopter anywhere into the world to be buried. But in those days, it's just a long trek.
It was a
with
long
no one
trek.
really taking any notice of you.
She's just another dead Mary, isn't she?
Yeah, exactly. Was it? Maybe it was just a random... Are they sure it's the right Mary?
Yeah.
Well, it could be, because there was all kinds of Marys around.
Yes.
It was like Brighton, it was just full of Marys. But, so, thank you for getting that, if you did. The mountains of Kong aren't real, but made up a roo-rah is. Can you give me your best Mummerset accent?
You're hoping for a...
Yes, that's correct. Though. Yeah, that's right. It's not difficult.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's like a sort of generic mumbling...
Yeah.
It's not even West Country, is it, Somerset? It's sort of like a default kind of, where are we? We can
That's
east
right.
or west or anywhere.
Yes, you replace an S with a Z, like Zyder and all that sort of thing. F with a V, Vry, Stephen Vry. Right? So, for example, I haven't seen Alan since Friday. It becomes, I ain't seen that Alan since Friday. Why is it called Mummersett?
Mummersett?
What is a mummer? What a mummer?
Oh, a theatrical player.
Theatrical clown.
Mummers are...
Like actors. A clown or something.
Players, actors.
Oh.
And it's a word given to the generic West Country accent.
Oh,
that most West Country people say bad actors
On
give
BBC
to
Radio.
a clown, a fool, a rustic, any kind of figure like that in a drama or a film. They say, oh, where you can't come here.
Pirates are a bit West Country, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
So how do you say, hey?
Not like that. I don't know.
Hey!
It probably is
Hey, Bale!
But it's not It's not unique.
Hey!
It's not unique to English. I gather.
I've lost my needle!
But I gather, Sammy, there is a generic Indian accent.
Well, okay, there is a generic Indian accent. Talking like this and everything's okay. But I realized recently, because I was doing a Pakistani character in one of my stand-up shows where I was talking about my relative, and I put on a generic Indian accent, and I was like, am I being racist towards myself at this point? Like, how are you doing? And I think, but I don't talk like that, so I don't know why I did that to myself.
It's fascinating. Yeah, on the subject of accents and so on, who was the first BBC newsreader to have what you might call a regional accent? Do you know this? It was a Yorkshire accent, as it goes.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
It was during the Second World War. And the idea was, people thought, the BBC and the government thought, that a local accent would be harder for a German imposter to put on. Because the newsreaders had to say their name. So they'd say, this is the 6 o'clock news, read by Alva Liddell, or whatever. And,
read by Wolfgang...
Got you! And the one was here, this is the 6 o'clock news, read by Wilfred Pickles. Yeah, Wilfred Pickles. Unfortunately, the public reported that while they may believe that it was Wilfred Pickles, what they didn't believe was a word he said.
Right.
Because he didn't speak like this.
This was a lot of fuss about nothing.
So we are winning the war in the Atlantic. No, that's rubbish. So actors, have this. You're an actor as well as a.
I did one stage play
I believe
a while
it was
back.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
And naturally, you played.
I played Juliet, actually.
Right.
No, it was the point of the point of the play was to create awareness about homosexuality and about AIDS awareness in Pakistan. So we did the play, and the goal was I would play Juliet, and we'd have a man playing Romeo as well. But we did one night, and then we got told not to do any more.
When you say told not to do anymore, is that a euphemism for...
It's not a please don't do anymore. It's not like that at all. No.
Please don't do anymore.
Well, I mean, they don't ever have to point it, because it's...
because they've got a massive sword.
Yeah, it's implied.
I don't want to make hasty judgments about Pakistan. I've never been. But you've got the Taliban. Hello.
Yeah, but other than them, it's nice.
How do you go Stephen, back? The naan. The naan.
Yeah,
But seriously, how do you go back when you do things like this? You stand up for gay rights. You're not a gay man yourself, but you stand up for them, which is completely, as it were, unnecessary, but a magnificent thing to do. How do you...
What happens is you get the death threats, and as long as you're getting the death threats...
Oh, we all get death threats, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we get them for silly things like, not being ever considered to be the host of a motoring show. You get them for doing really serious humanitarian, against-the-grain political work.
It's also stand-up comedy at the end of the day, so you're kind of wondering whether, it's just another penis joke. Like, you don't know how humanitarians is.
So is there a thriving stand-up circuit?
There was me and another guy.
He's an undercover agent.
And he's German, it turns out. No, the main thing I realized was, as long as the death threats are coming, you're safe. It's when they stop coming that means that the people sending the threats are now coming over.
So you used to say in the First World War, is when you hear the whistle of the shells, is when they stop.
Yeah,
you're in
that's
danger.
right.
God. Well, that's the Mummersette, exactly. It's mummers, actors, and their generic West Country accent. Now, while we're in the West Country, the highest point in Cornwall is called Brown Willie. But can you name an M word for the part of the body that Brown Willie is named after? Hello?
I say.
Massive man tool.
Massive man
Massive
tool.
man tool.
Is it the middle?
Is it
Midriff,
the
you mean?
Middle, no, just
No, the middle, general middle.
The middle of a person.
Can I just say about that man, he spent so much time in his torso, and yet that hair.
Yeah.
And I say that with this, but, you know.
The Brown in Brown Willie
Bit of
actually
the
comes...
body beginning with M. The mind.
Oh, yeah.
Is that body or is... Oh, I say, well, that's
See what I did there?
it comes from the
organ.
The old Cornish word bron is the brown bit,
OK.
and that means breast. Breast. Breast.
Does it make you
Yeah,
feel
exactly.
more comforted to say it repeatedly?
Memories would
Breast,
exactly.
breast, breast,
So,
breast.
yeah, and Willie was originally Wenili, meaning swallow. I mean, the animal, the bird. There are lots of places in the UK named after memories. Can you name one?
Boob town.
Can you name a real one?
Great Titchfields.
The mountains of Boo.
The mountains.
Well, press your buzzer.
Manchester.
Yes! It's Manchester originally.
No.
Mam as in memory. Yeah.
And it's got chest in it as well.
Yeah.
Incredibly rudely named place.
Full breasts. The memories and the chest.
Yeah.
And there's Nippleton as well, isn't
It's
there?
from the Celtic mam. You got Mam Tor in Derbyshire.
Jugsford.
Waxbury.
Melonford.
Great
Bazookaville.
Racton.
Oh, dear gracious. The Paps of Anu in Ireland are named after the breast of Jesus. And there's a Pap of Glencoe and a Maiden Pap in Scotland.
There's Papworth.
Papworth, absolutely, yes, but the hospital there. And what about Titty Hill in West Sussex?
What about it?
It exists, but it's not named after breasts.
No, of course.
What's it named after?
I don't know. But those...
Sir Malcolm Titty.
Hang on.
His assistant named it when they both discovered it.
What do you think we should call this?
I think we should name it after you, Titty.
Titty.
You found it, Titty.
We're not going to make it up to you, Big Dick.
Silly carry-on line. It's actually named after, I think you were struggling to say that, what it was named
the
after.
birds.
The birds.
The blue
tits.
tits.
Blue
Blue
tits,
tits.
great tits, yep. Birds. Brown Willie is the highest point at Bodmin
Of anyone's
Moor.
life.
Exactly. Anyway, how mad can a mango make a man go? See what I did? That was a mango. This is a story you either know or you don't, but it's actually genuinely a fascinating story and rather horrifically repellent too.
So where a mango made a man go mad.
It made a whole nation go mad, actually.
Is there something toxic about a mango?
Not toxic. It made them go mad in a fever of worship.
Oh, so they fetishise the mango.
They fetishised the man who gave them the mango.
But they made a god of a mango bringing man.
Virtually, yes.
Right.
Absolutely
Was it
right.
Del Monte, the man from Del Monte?
That would have been relatively sane in a strange sort of way.
Why did it to worship
This
the
was
man?
the largest nation on Earth in the 1960s, 1968 to be precise. China. So who ruled China in 1968?
Mao Zedong.
Mao Zedong. The hero of the people. He received a crate of mangoes from...
The man from Del
The
Monte.
man responsible was the Pakistani foreign
There we
minister.
go.
Do you know the story?
Yeah, because the Pakistani mango is, no matter what the Indians say, the best in the world. And the fact that I haven't had a Pakistani mango in up 3 years now is just a point of just
You really
misery
miss
for
them.
me. Oh my God, they're amazing. They really are.
If you try and eat a mango, usually they've been over-chilled in Britain, so they're fibrous, and the stone in the middle is too close to the flesh, and you try it with a knife and it squirts over you. What should you do? Should you just simply bury your head in it?
There's no dignity.
Right, see
Mangoes are like lobsters. You can't look cool and eat a mango. Like, you decide, I'm eating the mango or I'm getting laid tonight. Like, that's... Those are the choices you make in life.
Well, obviously then, the Pakistani foreign minister in 1968 thought he was doing a really smart thing by giving such a beautiful fruit, a crate of them, to the leader of the most populous nation on earth, Mao Zedong, and he instantly re-gifted those mangoes. This is where it gets weird.
Yeah.
He gave them to the factory workers' peacekeeping squads, who called themselves the Worker-Peasant Mao Zedong Thought Propaganda Teams.
Catchy.
What's the big deal? He didn't like them, re-gifted them. No story there. The crate of mangoes was split up, and individual fruits were sent to factories where they were put on altars. So, yes, you're right, worship. Preserved in formaldehyde, sealed in wax, and in one case, boiled in a huge pot of water. And 1 teaspoon went to each worker of the water.
So they didn't eat the mango?
No, this gets weirder. There were mango... There were Mao mango... Lots of M's here. There were Mao mango medallions, textiles with mango pictures on them, hundreds more mango artifacts, trays, mugs, fabric. The state even produced mango brand cigarettes. Despite all this, most people in China, of course, had never seen a mango. So there's only one crate to go around 1 billion people. It was there. One man who remarked that it was nothing special and looked just like a sweet potato was arrested as a counter-revolutionary. Wait for it. Put on trial, found guilty, taken to the edge of town and shot. For doubt... There you go. It's pretty astonishing, though, isn't it? It tells a lot about human nature. It's very unfortunate.
What you want to do, you want to slice the side off and then score it with horizontal and vertical lines. And then kind of pop it inside out.
And there's like a little hedgehog.
So
yes, that's right.
And then you eat the little square.
You can get a sort of cut of that shape. Rather powerful to describe it as a little mango.
Mango Appreciation Society.
I'm very proud to be part of a show in which we can spend 10 minutes discussing mangoes.
Yeah.
Very pleasing.
Like that. Lovely.
Now, who gets best use out of a man engine?
A woman.
Out of a...
I can't believe that hasn't gone off. Do you want to know what the forfeit was?
No.
You do, Stephen. Isn't that sick? I said, no! No one's going to say that. And you didn't.
Yeah, we've moved beyond.
Yeah, exactly. What do you get out of a man engine?
Is it invented by a Mr. Man?
No,
not Mr. Man, not like Mr. Strong.
Mr. Inventor.
Roger Hargreaves.
Mr. Brilliant Inventor. Yeah. But someone whose surname was Man.
No, it's nothing to do with that. Which was the first sort of engine? What was the first engine?
Well, there was the Newcomen engine.
The Newcomen engine, where was that?
That was in the early 18th century. It was for pumping water out of, like, mines.
Where were those mines?
Cornwall.
Cornwall?
Cornwall. Tin mines.
Tin mines.
Trevithick, his engine, and Newcomen, as you rightly say. So, you've got to get men down the mines to hammer away and get the tin. And there you can see there's a ladder that goes a certain way down, but you dig down, dig down, dig down, dig down, and then you've got a real problem. The men have got to get all the way down to the bottom, all the way up to the top. It'll be knackered. And you're not getting good productivity out of them, so you need...
A lift.
Yeah, but there's no technology.
You need a man engine.
So all you have is a wheel that goes round like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you have. It's very cunning. Look at that. Watch the men there going up.
That's
I
like
bet there were
2
never
weeks
any
schooling.
accidents doing that.
Well, given how many there are in coal mines,
And is
it's
that when
beautifully elegant, isn't
Is that
it?
when they invented the computer game as well?
But that's to give you an impression of how it works. This is actually rather elegant. As you can see, the flywheel, or whatever you call it, the wheel, which converts into this downward and upward motion. And obviously, in reverse, it'll get the men down.
I could watch that for days.
This one is actually...
I've actually gone into
this one, as you
hypnotic
can see,
trance now, have you?
As you can see, this one is simply run by water. It's not even a steam engine.
And then they get on a conveyor belt at the top.
It can't be. They hadn't invented that. It must be an ice rink.
These days, mines are the descend. Like the Lemmings game. Now, what are the 3 manly games
Rugger, surely.
Not rugby, or
Spin the
boxing. Boxing.
Is it going to be Tiddlywinks?
Miraculous, I have to say.
Greco-Roman wrestling.
It's a form of wrestling. It's not Greco-Roman. It's very much of its own country, which begins with our guest letter. Yes, exactly.
Mongolian wrestling.
Mongolia is the right answer.
Oh, I'm on the bouncing back from the Tiddlywinks fiesta.
Yeah, the Mongolians have these games in their biggest festival, which is Nadam. So, as you can see, it's archery, it's horse racing, and it's wrestling in tight pants. And that's what the Mongolians do.
Those aren't pants. Sorry.
Aren't they?
They're underwear.
Oh, yeah, we have a linguistic issue. Yeah,
sorry.
you're right.
Oh, so in England are underwear pants?
Yes.
Yes.
That explains a lot of confusion I had.
What they're really wearing is some sort of cheerleader's outfit. Sort of crop top and tight underpants.
This is confusing for me, because this is exactly what Mary Berry is wearing in this season of Bake Off. And
She's got a soggy bottom.
Everyone has a soggy bottom.
Oh, that's true. Now, the thing is, that although they're called the three manly games, women can enter the archery and the racing and the horsing, but they can't enter the
Is the
wrestling.
jockey tiny, or is the horse enormous?
A bit of both. Plus the effect of foreshortening.
I think that horse is a donkey.
Do you really? It does look a bit like a donkey.
Yeah, I think it's a donkey.
I think it is a donkey.
I don't think that person will win, because horses
But this will interest you, I think. The winner of the Nadam wrestling contest is given the title... Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Yeah.
Did the man second back ever have his breasts used to model a tour in or mountain in Cornwall? Because
What is it with the clothes and the hats? What are they doing?
No, this is a culture long established that murdered all the people of Merv.
They made fun of their breasts.
Yeah, when they turned up in Merv and everyone
We surrender and your bones are
In Mongolia, nothing's more manly than wrestling another man in a pair of tiny underpants. What's the connection between margarine and marriage in Maine?
oh, is this like a sort of?
Is it an anagram?
It's about statistics. And
Oh, is it about people less interested?
Well, there's a man called Tyler Vigin of Harvard University who describes himself as a statistical provocateur. And he's found evidence that divorce...
Yeah.
He sounds awful.
He's really trying to sex up his dossier.
Can you imagine getting stuck at a party with a statistical provocateur?
Let me tell you think there are more school children who have pencils than don't. Well, prepare to be shocked.
I'd say 75% of me thinks you're a total dick.
But there is a point to him. There's a point to him. He discovered that the divorce rate in Maine since 2000 correlates with the per capita consumption of margarine in the United States as a whole. In other words, when margarine consumption goes up, so do the number of divorces.
But that's a false correlation, presumably.
Yes, that's the point. He actually wants us to understand that it's very easy for us to believe that you get a set of statistics that say as the amount of free milk and orange juice went up in the 50s, so did the literacy rate in Britain. People go, oh, that just shows that orange juice and milk are very important in literacy. It's bollocks. You have to demonstrate a causal relationship. This is what's known as a correlative one. And he becomes more and more ridiculous. And that's why he's a provocateur. And he wants to make that point. It is kind of... he discovered these are just M1s alone. The age of Miss America correlates with the number of murders by steam, hot vapours and hot objects. The marriage rate in New York correlates with the number of murders by blunt objects. So the more people get married in New York, the more murders there are blunt. That might actually be causative. George Canning, who was Prime Minister of Britain for the supreme length of 119 days... There he is, not the best known of our Prime Ministers. He said, I can prove anything with statistics except the truth.
That's when they got rid of him.
Yeah. They went, oh, God. I was thinking...
Can't you be more provocative?
Now, describe the morning glory of the rubber people of Mexico.
Is there something amusing in that question? The morning glory of the rubber
The
people.
rubber people.
Break it down for us. What's morning glory? What's rubber?
Well, morning glory is a delicious vegetable enjoyed by many people in Southeast Asia and often put in broths, and a massive erection.
Yeah, morning glory is indeed a flower, beautiful flower.
All right.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
vegetable and
So
flower.
the rubber people.
The rubber people
These
of
where
Mexico.
there are rubber trees.
Well, it's the early people of Mexico, the earliest people we know of.
The rubber age.
Well, the rubber age, the
Bronze Age. Iron Age,
well,
rubber
do you
age.
know, that's what it was for them, a rubber age, exactly.
Yeah,
These
I
people-
knew something.
Because rubber was first cultivated in Mexico, not in Malaysia or any of the other places where it's called Liberia or wherever it's grown, but in Mexico. And the people of that time...
Well, I only know the Aztecs.
Well,
the
the Aztecs
Mayans.
gave them this name, actually. They were called the Olmec between 1200 and 400 BC, so it was a long time ago. And then they tapped rubber and they made a ball out of it, which they played their ball game in, which they called in their language the ball game. They used one of those hoops, and versions of it are still played to this day. So it's really remarkable, because it was 3,000 years later that we in the West learned to do the same thing to rubber, a process known as... Do you know what it's called?
Vulcanisation?
Vulcanisation, exactly right, yeah.
Invented by one of Spock and the Vulcans.
Exactly. It was a man called Thomas Hancock in Britain and a better-known figure called Charles Goodyear in America. Goodyear tires still obviously used. In 1844. Yes, the Olmecs were making rubber a good few years before Goodyear. But now it's time for the earth-shattering round that we call general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, if you please. What's the easternmost state of the USA?
Well, now I'm going to say Alaska.
Is the right answer.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. Maine receives the first sunrise on the continental United States, but that's the line of longitude. And there are little bits of that look like just Russia and things like that are actually Alaska. You see those islands at the bottom that curve round?
It's got the weirdest shape, hasn't it? Alaska.
Yeah, the very south bit, the Aleutian Islands, they cross the line of longitude. So the bits that go right up to the line are the westernmost parts, but the bits the other side are the easternmost part.
So there are bits of it that are south of Russia.
Yes, absolutely. It's all very surprising, the geography.
Are they inhabited, any of those? Do we know?
No, I don't think so. Most of them are uninhabited.
The old fishing village or
There were
something like
foxes, millions of seabirds there, but no, not many humans. Alaska's state motto is North to the Future. Don't know what that means, but it's there it is. I tell you, they all have mottos, these states, and my favourite one is Kentucky. Kentucky's known really for two things. I mean, it's called the well, yeah. Apart from that, it's called the bluegrass state, but it's bourbon and the Kentucky Derby, the race. And somebody came up with a two-word phrase for Kentucky, which encapsulates both those things, which I think is rather brilliant.
Pissed horses.
That would do it. No, it's unbridled spirit.
Oh.
Isn't that clever? I think it's genuinely clever.
Yeah. No, that's great. That absolutely shits on North to the Future.
It's got to be said.
Because if there's one place you do not want to head north from, it's Alaska, because there's fuck all of the world. You want to go south. You want to see stuff
to the future.
North to the future, maybe you'd say from Argentina. Yes. You know? Alaska, south. North, in denial of the rest of humanity. Head into the snow and die.
Wishful thinking, exactly. Yes, east is east, west is west, and Alaska is both. In which country was Mozart born?
Ooh.
The countries were weird, that most of the countries didn't exist yet. Places like you think it's always been a country, like Germany and Italy, didn't exist then.
Was it the mountains of Kong?
Was he born in Salzburg?
Yes! Well done.
Was that
Good point. It was indeed. It was a state. Yeah, it was a southern state. Mozart hated it. And he moved as soon as he could to Vienna. Called himself German, in fact, although there was no such country. In fact, he died way before there was such a country.
He didn't make Paul McCartney's mistake of, you know, outliving his cool.
He didn't. Very, very true.
So, there you are. Yes, Mozart was a Salzburger. Goethe, as it happens, was a Frankfurter. Mendelssohn was a Hamburger. And the Brothers Grimm were Hessian. Yeah, so they all came from different lands. Who invented the aqueduct? Go on, Sammy.
Romans.
Oh! You fell into our little hammy trap. I'm very sorry.
Ever done for us?
What have the Romans ever done for us? They built that beautiful one there, which is the Pont du Gard in the Provençal region. It's absolutely lovely.
So who got there first?
The Etruscans or someone who came before the Romans.
Even further before, actually. You've got to go way back.
Oh.
Adam.
Too far back.
Just Adam.
That's a bit too far
The
back.
Babylonians?
Always a good bet.
The Mervians.
The first ones that are known about to archaeology were quite simple little ones, little runnels that allowed
Assyrians?
water like that. Not great big. No, we're actually in a sort of Greekish land. It's the Minoan culture, which is Crete.
Yeah.
And they were about the 2nd millennium BC, so it's a long time ago. And then also earlier was, as you said, Babylonians, Sennacherib, who was a big emperor of the time, celebrated in a Byron poem.
Good.
He built really impressive ones. He was extremely rich and powerful. It was about 691 BC. 10 metres high, 30 metres wide, made of over 2 million stones. His aqueduct was used to water his gardens, which many think were the sort of the origin of the hanging garden.
Do you think that could possibly be true?
Well, there is quite a lot of archaeology to support it. It's not just description. You work out how they were made.
It must have taken 100 years to build.
Well, 100 million slaves, probably. Not that many, obviously, but yeah. It was an 80-kilometre limestone aqueduct. It's a long way, with lots and lots. Yeah, just for a garden. Gardens are important.
Alan Titchmarsh has got a similar one in his. It's made of plastic guttering from B&Q.
Decking, lovely
It has
decking.
to be said that those Minoan ones, I would say the word gutter is more appropriate than the word aqueduct. I would not say I had an aqueduct round the edge of my house to collect the rainwater. The aqueduct's leaking again.
Get up there and clear the aqueduct.
Now, this is exciting. I've got some glasses of water for you. Yes, I know. Be very, very excited. Oh, there we go. Here are yours, Alan and David. Don't try them. Don't. For God, whatever you do, drink any yet. Until you know what you're doing. Oh, there we are. There's A, B, and C. Can you see that?
Well, A has got something in it.
Yeah, there's some weird detritus
Yeah, that's
in it.
either some very poor washing up. That's
Downdraft.
Well, I'll tell you what A is. A is seawater. A is seawater.
It'll kill you.
Tell you what B is.
Fresh water, because there's bubbles in it.
It's treated sewage.
All right, then.
Oh. That's why it's got bubbles in it.
And C is ultra pure water.
right.
Can I have C?
That's your choice?
Oh.
No,
But to be fair, we don't know whether Sue meant C as in C or C as in
You little devil. But yes, the point was to trap you into choosing ultra pure water. Ultra pure water is too pure. The kidneys have a real problem here because we rely on electrolytes to power, energise our brains and the heart and other bits of ourselves. And if your blood is drained of all the particles, because the pure water is taking them away through osmosis, then you will die if you have too much.
I'm going to revise.
Would that amount of pure water
No,
kill?
no, that's fine.
So what is the best out of those three?
Well, what about seawater?
Well, seawater's got a lot of salt in it.
Yeah, the kidneys try and get the salt out, and in order to get the salt out, they have to use water. So you actually, the effect of drinking seawater is to dehydrate.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're left with treated sewage.
Well, it's been treated, I suppose.
It has been treated, yeah.
But someone told me that the water that you drink from a tap in London has been through 9 people before it reaches a glass. Is that true?
It's not yet. No, it's not yet true at all. This is a sort of urban myth, really, that we all like to think.
Been through
we're
cows
drinking
and sheep as well.
Yeah,
I'd
they're
like
actually
to know
talking
which
about
9 people they were.
I know,
wouldn't you?
that is also very important to know.
Yeah.
In Windhoek, which is the capital of Namibia.
Namibia.
Yeah, exactly. And there they have slightly salty water because it's 25% of it is treated sewage, only 25%. But it's perfectly okay.
But there's no excuse not to do what this is, I believe, which is probably either Orange County or LA, which is that they use treated sewage for golf courses and for irrigation and things like that. But treated sewage is gaining popularity around the world, so that seems a helpful thing. But you ought to try, well, which one did you try? Now, I won't make you try the sewage. Try the ultra pure, because it's not going to kill you one sip. Just see if it is actually noticeably pure.
Can you get messed up?
Oh, my goodness!
It's messed up on this.
I would say it does taste like water, but a little bit more boring. Maybe I'm just imposing that.
Yeah, no, you might be.
It's got that chlorine high note, has it?
You know, I don't expect a party in my mouth with water. That was like a party in my mouth, but with a statistical provocateur.
Well, I've got treated sewage in this, and I wouldn't ask you to because you might not want it, but I'm going to have a. Oh, jeez. I'm going to have a go. Does it? Oh. It's shitty, but it's pissy as well. Put me right off. That's lovely. It's tap water. That's just tap water. We couldn't get any treated sewage. We asked for it. I said I was up for drinking it, but it's just tap water.
So it's only been through 9 people's
right.
So, drinking pure water can kill you. You're much better off draining a glass of processed sewage. Good health to you all. And all that's left now are the scores. Oh, my gracious goodness, heavenly me. In last place, I'm afraid, but she probably knows it by the fact that I've used a feminine pronoun. It's Sue Perkins! Fighting manfully into third place, Alan Davies! In second place, a magnificent debut from Sammy Shaw! Which can only mean that our clear winner with -4 is David Mitchell. And that's all from Sammy, Sue, David, Alan and me. Good night.